Barcelona, it is just a very, in comparison to what tracks that we used to race on in the past, Barcelona is just something completely different. It is a very slim, very narrow. It has a lot of low and medium speed corners, where the speed difference between our GT3 cars and our hypercars are obviously not as big as on the faster sections of the track. So multiclass is most certainly gonna be a very, very difficult aspect for these hypercar drivers and GT3 drivers to manage the traffic. And I think this race is more about is gonna be more about who can make the least amount of mistakes and who can manage the traffic the best and stay out of any incidents.
Indeed. Apologies, by the way, if I was speaking, you couldn't hear what I was saying at all. But yeah, hopefully people got at least most of that introduction, because I don't want to have to do it all over again. It's just awkward and unnecessary. A couple of comments, by the way, saying, why is it not the Pro Series today? Well, it was the Pro Series last week at Le Mans. For some weird reason, I know on Michi Hoyer's channel, he is restreaming the whole of last week's Endurance Pro Round at Le Mans as though it is live. I think because his live stream had an issue last week and cut off halfway through the race, so he's decided to just do the whole thing from start to finish this time around. So yeah, if you want to see Michi's point of view of his race, spoilers, he finished P8, or is about to finish P8, depending on your perspective, then you can watch that. But yeah, certainly a contender field has waited 2 weeks in Silverstone to get back out there, and as you rightly point out, Niclas, there's a lot of traffic management, not just in terms of the GT3s letting through the hypercars, but not losing time as they let through the hypercars as well, which could be vital then as we look at Mattia Panci in the Lexus. The Lexus has not been a brilliant car this season, but Panci has been one of the stronger runners in it. As we say, 10th in the standings at the moment, finished P6, P7, I think it was, at Silverstone. But we don't think Barcelona should be a particularly strong track for the Lexus. That certainly was not the case in Pro, unless Mattia Panci and Renova Competition have found some kind of magic setup that is going to find it a bit more pace here. As you can see, he's shadowing, actually going very quickly compared to Artyom Manisha. So potentially just trying to shadow the Belarusian driver here, our championship leader, and maybe get a bit of slipstream that way.
Yeah, I'm also sure this slipstream is going to be very crucial in these early stages of the race, but not so much in qualifying. We're still in the tire warm-up stage. So Mattia Panci might want to leave a bigger gap to that Corvette in front, because I think with the amount of corners that we have on this track, the dirty air is not going to be worth the little bit of slipstream he is getting down the over 1 kilometer long main straight. And as I say that, Panci does give Manisha a bit of space, as Manisha now comes across the line and locks in our first lap of the day, a 44.4, which is immediately beaten by Panci, despite the lifting of 44.2. Personi up into P3 with a 44.6, and Leo Alain 42.9. That is very fast for a warm-up lap.
Yeah, stream is saying I'm really quiet, so I've just turned... my mic was already on 100%, so I don't know how to make it louder. I've turned the gain up on the back of my microphone. I think I have anyway, because it won't go any further, so I'll just bloody shout and hope that works then. And yeah, I'm sorry if I sound frustrated, but there's been a water shortage in my hometown specifically, so there's no bloody water. So if I die of thirst halfway through the stream, you will know why, Niklas. If I'm quiet at any point, it's because I'm dehydrated and dying. So anyway, as you say, Leo Alain currently fastest 142.9 in the Corvette for Horizon Racing E-Sunrise. But of course, Leo Alain is one of our, is the SDL, used to be a SDL esports driver as well, Leo Alain, the Frenchman. So hasn't finished either of the first 2 rounds. So he will be hoping that he can build on having heated his tires up quickly here. But Tom Villiard is going very quickly in the 220 Porsche as well. And he's certainly been a little bit of a threat for pole, as here is the 152 of Julian Gurin. Had gone fastest in the first couple of sectors before Thomas and Alain had beaten it already on their second laps, of course. So the Mustang take a while to build its tires up to temperature. We did see the Mustang struggle a little bit, really, in the Pro Series early on, as Artyom Manisha goes fastest before Julian Gurin immediately beats that 141.826. Now the current fastest time, I expect. We're going to see over the next 4 minutes left of the session, the times continue to tumble here as Leo Alain goes fastest once again.
Yeah, Michael Thomas up into P2 for 0 Point Racing. Canton up into P5 with a 42.0. Then we have Kolosov who jumps up into P4. You can see the top 4 cars only separated by just over a tenth of each other. We are already getting into a quite competitive environment in terms of lap times here. but I do believe that we will most certainly see some lap times into the 40s. As I said, that Leo Alain has found another 10th in Sector 1. So the Frenchman that is now racing for Horizon Racing Team is looking very, very promising in the stages of qualifying, as now he breaks himself into this very, very tricky section of corners first. This section just had everything. It has a very slow entry by comparison, and then a very fast exit out of the corner. It has a little bit of banking. It's a very tricky corner combination, as Ayatom Manisha goes fast in Sector 2 and will bring us around the final 2 corners. And in a nick of time, he's going to cross the line, and I think we're going to see our first very competitive time on the board. Ayatom Manisha, what is he going to be able to do? It is a 40.8, 2/10 faster than Alain, but what does Alain have left as an answer to that?
There we go. We did see the Corvette, the Visceral Corvette, really strong in the Pro Series. Lewis Riedel, of course, winning on the road. He's currently, of course, second, not for Visceral, but for JHR in the British F4 Real Life Championship, of course. So he's been competing at Thruxton this weekend, finished second in the third and final race of the day, of course. So he's still trying to catch Belgian driver. I can't remember his name. Van Langendonk, that's it. That is leading that championship at the moment. About 41 points ahead of him. As Manisha on this next lap has gone even quicker than anybody else by just 400ths in the first sector. And it's a good thing he has, because Alexandre Lay has beaten him by 5,000ths of a second in the Opelite Sim Racing Porsche. So brilliant stuff from the Frenchman. And Lay, who's been a bit of a dark horse these last couple of rounds, hasn't he? 5th in the championship, having finished 2nd at Silverstone with a really great strategy. Stayed out longer than anybody else in the sort of second middle stint of the race, and was able to jump everyone as a result. I believe Killian Adolphs is still in the pit lane because he's serving a penalty from the previous round for Grid 4 for esports then. So Adolphs, we should see him in action come the race, but we're not going to see him take part in this qualifying session, especially with only 90 seconds left on the clock. So it is a having to sit out qualifying punishment there. Manisha still on a hot lap. They're hoping to get back in front of Alexandre Lay onto pole position. Lay has gone a bit slower in the first sector on this next lap. Kolosov in 4th is on a personal best in the first 2 sectors. So we're seeing incremental gains now from the front runners. So that shows everybody's got the tires working about as well as they can. It's now all down to the drivers.
Yeah, Kolosov comes across the final corner and is going to cross the line in a nick of time. Manisha, that last run would have been enough, but it was sadly invalid.
Track
and
limits
so
for Kolosov.
Vladislav Kolosov, as you say. Now, Luca Congratl in his Ford Mustang. The Mustangs didn't look too fast here in the Pro Series just a few weeks ago, and they're struggling in qualifying here as well, as we have a yellow flag in Sector 1. That is Tom Willard, who has decided to call it the day for the day. I think he just stopped on track. That is Shotishki.
Mikolaj Hutishki, yes, the Polish driver. Mikolaj comes to a stop just after crossing, and I think we've seen Lay and Congratel do the same thing. Here's Valliard, having a bit of a twitch on, and I think just deciding to, I assume, abandon the lap. Yeah, he's going very slow in the background. You can just see in the background of that shot. Manisha on what should be his final lap. Checkered flag for GT3 is about to go out now with exactly 15 minutes remaining then. So checkered flag is out. The hypercars will be let out with 10 minutes remaining, as Manisha going through the last couple of corners now at 13 and 14. Is that final corner. So quick, of course, as he's just coming towards the line now, and does retake pole position from Lay by just under a 10th and a half, a 40.673. So a fantastic lap there from the championship leader, as old dear Leo Alain is beached it into the gravel. So just understeered off there, pushing that a little bit too hard. There's Personi. He is going to start down in 13th, 8/10 off a pole position, but that's very close from first down to 13th then in the order. But Manisha, for the second time this season, will start from pole position just as he did at Spa.
Yeah, I really expected him to be up there once again, and now with Mark Sidoric out of the way, who seemed to be his closest rival on most occasions, he has taken pole by just under 1.5 tenths. Ayrton Manicha takes pole for Visceral Esports with a 1:40.673. Then Alexandre Lay in second place in his Porsche. Very strong performance for the Uplight Esports team. Leo Alain in third place. So our two Corvettes in the top three, just separated by 1.65 tenths ahead of Kolosov. Very strong qualifying for the Lexus driver. Then Tom Willard in his top tier motorsport Porsche, 4 tenths off. Then we have Mikolai Chotishki.
I should not have let you read these.
Yeah. Head of Michael Thomas in 6th and 7th position. Then Davide Canton in P8 and Julien Henao in his Shadow 1 Esports McLaren, the only McLaren that completed qualifying. Mattia Punchy in P10 with his Renova competition Lexus ahead of Lucas Congratil and Julien Grand, the two Shadow 1 Esports Mustangs struggling for pace ahead of Leonardo Passoni and Killian Adolphs, who obviously had to serve a penalty in the pits and did not qualify.
Okay. Yeah, I've just seen Pancake 4525. I'm pretty sure it is Mohamed Colombo, but I could be mistaken. That's saying, who is this bozo commentating? Well, thanks, Mohamed. But
anyway, I think it's all about me.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, well, I'm sure Mikolai Hitushki probably feels the same about the amount of times collectively we've butchered his name, which I'm sure is the most natural name in the world to pronounce for the native Polish speaker. But anyway, let's have a look briefly before the hypercars are sent out at their championship standings. Moritz Ulrich, of course, our winner in Spa, failed to finish though last time out at Silverstone. So he is still on 38 points, but of course, with the endurance round at Spa giving significantly more points, he is still ahead of Johannes Price, who has scored on the podium and was 5th last time out as well, despite having a spin early in the race at Silverstone. He's 5 points ahead of Lucas Cedar, first of a string of Cadillacs, of course. Cedar and both Simone Viola as well, who was a runner-up last time at Silverstone, both on 27 points apiece. 1 point ahead of Valentin Barrier for the Opelite Cadillac. Giuseppe Denoy for Exclusive Esports is P6, another point behind. Then a little bit of a gap down in 7th. It's Robin Deschamps on 16 points, equal with Marco Canter. Deschamps, of course, was on the podium for Alien Motorsports after starting on pole, of course, and defending well in the closing stages. I believe it was from Marco Canter himself at Silverstone. Paul Kosh, who is not here because he's on holiday, he is in 9th at the moment on 13 points, and rounding out the top 10, we've got the Toyota, the Codis ASP by Delta V machine, driven by Nathan Perron, of course, who's hoping to put another underdog performance together. Perron really undone by a track limits penalty at Silverstone last time out then. So this will be very, very interesting indeed to see how this one filters out. That is not a Porsche 911 you see at the front of the queue. That's actually Gabor Pour in the Aston Martin Valkyrie. So we're not going to hear the beautiful V12 of the Valkyrie. We're just going to hear a Porsche that is as quick as the Valkyrie, but doesn't look the same.
Yeah, unfortunately, it doesn't have a sound. I'd love if they put the Valkyrie as a placeholder sound, but I don't think they can do that for obvious reasons. Johannes
I think
Price,
Porsche would be happy now.
Yeah, they would be absolutely delighted with that. Johannes Price, the man that is currently second in the championship standings, I think he'll be one of those contestants to watch out for once again. The wingless Peugeot, it's a beast in the race, truly. The VE and tire management this thing has is just amazing. But he has, obviously, in Moritz Ulrich, his Visceral Esports teammate. He has a very, very competitive, competitor that he is going up against for this championship, and I think these two will most certainly come together once or twice in the race. Let's hope for them that that this does not end the race, but I'm here for some racing action.
Well, I think the problem with Johannes Price, yeah, he's a great driver. We've seen it in the pro split as well, but he's also done some reserve drives and fought for points. Although I don't think he's finished in the points so far in Pro to my memory. He's 13th in the champion. He did actually score in the first 2 rounds, 2 P8s at both this race at Barcelona and at Silverstone, of course, after penalties were applied, of course. Yeah, so far this season, as I say, 3rd at Spa. He didn't qualify all that well. He wasn't in the top 5 in qualifying, but did make his way forward with a great strategy, being able to save fuel and tyres. He was able to really extend the stint and was able to sort of have a shorter stop near the end and jumped briefly into the lead before Moritz Ulrich took it back and Lucas Cedar got through as well. And then Silverstone, as I mentioned, Johannes Price was in the mix for the podium battle, had a big spin coming out of Lovefield, and that dropped him well outside the top 10, and yeah, eventually fought his way back up to, I think, 5th by the closing stages, behind Marco Canto and Robin Deschamps, with a late move, I believe it was on Valentin Barrier himself, wasn't it? Yes, to get into 5th right in the final lap. So Johannes Price, certainly the Peugeot, I actually think, has been a bit of a tricky car to qualify, but in the races, as you say, Johannes Price has been able to get really, really strong performances out of it. Of course, as you can see on track, he is the only wingless, and in fact the only Peugeot period out there today. With the rest of the field, a mix of Cadillacs, Toyotas, a pair of Ferraris for Ulrich and Henkel for Pulse Racing, an Alpine for Paul Lepere, and of course the Gabaport in the Valkyrie, as previously mentioned then. So a bit of a mix. No BMW. Oh, there is one BMW driven by Daniel Marsen. But the BMW, of course, we've seen it so strong in the hands of the Falcon Sim Racing team that is yet to be beaten in hypercar in the pro split, of course. Marsen has been up and down a little bit in both Contender and Tier 1. Some very strong performances here and there for Daniel Marsen, for Merck Sim Racing, of course, the American driver. Of course, good to see some American representation. I think Marsen is the sole driver from the United States being represented in the series at the present moment here in our second split in Contender. Yep, no Americans in GD3 to my knowledge either, apart from, of course, this man, Daniel Marsen, who's in hypercar. As Gabaport, predictably, having been first out the pits, he sets the fastest time, 1:35.5, but that's quite a way off, as we see DeRezzo in the Ferrari being a little bit held up by one of the AD Motorsport Toyotas. I believe is that Cedar. Not Cedar, because he's in the Cadillac. It's Ulrich, of course, Nicholas Ulrich.
Yeah, Nicholas Ulrich now, surprisingly, a yellow flag in the last sector. Oh!
Yeah, well, no wonder he's holding him up. He's lost the rear wing.
Yeah, he has no rear wing. I think Ulrich may have clipped the curb on the inside of the corner.
Oh no, didn't have the tyres up to temperature, turned in, and the rears just refused to cooperate.
Yeah.
Now the problem for Nicholas Ulrich is he's trying to get back to the pit lane, but he can't because he's gone past the pit lane entry at that point. So he'll either have to do a whole lap struggling out there, or have to abandon this qualifying session. I have no doubt the stewards might be trying to send urgent messages to him not to compromise anybody else's laps out there.
Yeah, I think this is gonna be the qualifying session done and dusted for Nicholas Ulrich. Oh, that sucks. It hasn't even started yet, and the race is already gonna be so much more difficult than he planned it to be. And I don't think LE Motorsports, after locking out the front row in Silverstone, are happy in any sort of way with that result in qualifying. But obviously the race is still 80 minutes, so I think he'll have some time to come back, as Gabaport brings us into the 31s.
Yeah, Marco Cantor, though, immediately beats that 1:31.2, so we're very close to 1:30 actually from our front runners. Everybody, let's remind ourselves, on medium tyres, of course. We're expecting, if you can see, this evolving grip on this track, so the track is going to get quicker and quicker. 37.1 degrees Celsius track temperature, 18 degrees Celsius air temperature, of course. As we see Daniel Marsen in the BMW is the first man in the 130s. We're just looking at him at the moment then. So we did see Sven Gielhed on pole at the very start of the pro split season. And remind me, Niclas, what was Gielhed's pole time. I think he was a thousandth of a second ahead of the Ferrari of Dario Mulo, wasn't he?
Yes, that is indeed the case. Gilhood did 1:28.487.
Ah, okay, significantly quicker then. But still, that is impressive. Martin is already in the 1:30.9s. As you see, Valentin Barrier, we're looking at the moment, has gone a whole second quicker in the first sector. That's compared to his previous best, of course, but that's still the fastest first split of the session so far. So we'll have to see how this all filters out. It looks like Marco Cantor is the fastest in the middle sector as Gabor Por goes yet faster again, 1:30.1, 8/10 quicker than Daniel Marzen. And we're seeing more times being pumped in here, 1:29.5 by Ulrich. And that is almost identical to the time Cantor is just pumped in. And we see Yannis Price just a tenth behind, but that's beaten by Alex Guidi now in the Toyota. The Toyota is the surprise package here. We saw it on pole at Silverstone. Could it yet provide a sting in the tail once the tires are up to temperature here at Circuit de Catalunya?
Yeah, the gaps are very, very marginal to each other. We, of course, have so much more time in these laps. I did actually just think that there was that they did set 28.5s, which would have been very fast this early, quote unquote, into the session. But yeah, nonetheless, I expect some very low 29s and high 28s.
Oh,
as Valentin Barrier, he's had a moment here before on the last lap. I just noticed that, and now he's in the gravel again. So maybe Valentin Barrier and Oplight are struggling to keep the Cadillac stable in that corner. Let's have a look at it.
Okay then, so into the 6-7 chicane. He comes the rear, gets out of shape very early there, and he's almost the rear end flying over the gravel as he rotates at high speed there. So Barrier, of course, will be hoping to put that one behind him. But for Valentin, he's got a similar, let's hope that he can set he did set the fastest first sector of anybody, so he was clearly pushing very hard. As we see Moritz Ulrich, our championship leader, he set a 1:28.7 there. We're not far away from the pro pole time now, as we see a few more times being pumped in. Niklas Henkel going up to P6 there.
Yeah, Barrier's looking strong in sector 1 again. Now Daniel Marzen comes across the line.
I think that's still the same lap though, as Moritz Ulrich has beaten that first sector time of Barrier then to 1:26.372. The Barrier is still out there, I think, trying to get back to start another lap. He won't have time to pit. So this could be a very, very difficult time for Valentin Barrier. He may be at the back with Niklas Ulrich here.
Robin Deschamps now has gone fastest in sector 1, 1.64 hence faster than he went previously out of turn 6 and into the turn number 7 now. The 7 and 8 chicane, I think it is, going up onto the second straight. Ulrich went 2/10 faster than previously in sector 2, so he's looking at a 28.5, which would be mega. Deschamps not as quick in that middle section as the Ferrari, but I'm very, very much thrilled to see what these two can cook up here in these dying stages of qualifying. We have 30 seconds remaining, so all of these guys will be able to go one more time, and then no more as Ulrich with a 28.6. Cantor comes across the line. No one else is looking to get into the 28s as Deschamps 28.8 on the board.
Yep, there we go. So Robin Deschamps falls just 2/10 short of making it 2 poles in a row. There's Valentin Barrier, has got just enough time. Yellow flag's ahead of him, but he should be able to start. There we go, with 2 seconds left on the clock. His final flying lap. So final chance for Valentin Barrier. Now he's cleaned the gravel off his tires to try and get this Cadillac up the grid. He is P8 at the moment with his previous effort here. So he's got to hope there's still a little bit of time left in these tires here. But you can see Cantor, Price, Guidi, Marzen are all in the pits then. So that's all drivers that won't have the right variety. Benjamin George gets his Toyota up to P5 there. So it looks like George, the Solar Codis ASP representative, because it doesn't look like our 10th place man in the championship, Nathan Perron, his teammate, is going to be taking part today. But George pumping in a fabulous lap there for the Frenchman to get himself into the top 5 for the first time this season then, because he is down, Benjamin George, in 18th in the championship, yet to score a point. Could change that today, as we see Robin Deschamps has set a personal best in the middle sector. So I think he did get another time for another lap on the board, because of course he was ahead of Barrier. Barrier also setting a personal best in the middle sector as well, just over a tenth up on his best end. So Barrier could well get himself back over into the top 10, maybe 8th or 7th on the cards here.
Yeah, he has to improve, Valentin Barrier. He's had so many attempts at the lap. Robin Deschamps not able to find time, stays in second position. Valentin Barrier comes across the line at 29.1, ruins that potential first top 5 in qualifying for Benjamin George, though he will still start on the 3rd row. And I think that it's up, done, dusted for qualifying in Hypercar.
Yeah, there we go. I think Lucas Cedar just make his way back into the pit entry. Oh, pretty empty Hypercar qualifying grid. There we go. That looks more like it. It's a confirmation. And Moritz Ulrich, our championship leader, is on pole by nearly 3/10 from Robin Deschamps. Those final 2 sectors were immense for the Virtual Motorsport driver there in car number 397, which I think is the default number, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, Robin Deschamps in the 212 for Alien Motorsports gets another front row. The Deschamps, of course, is one of his 7th in the championship, of course, after finishing 3rd at Silverstone. So he really needs even more points. Marco Cantor, our pole sitter from Spa, is 3rd on the grid. So all of our top 3 have been on pole at some point this season. Johannes Price, 3rd in the championship, is in 2nd in the championship, I should say, is in P4 on the grid, just 100th behind Marco Cantor. Valentin Barrier, with that late effort, gets the Opelite Cadillac into P5. Benjamin George gets his best qualifying of the season so far in P6. Alex Guidi, also fastest we've seen him in a while, in P7. Simone Violo, who is also high, right up there in the championship, is in P8. Gabor Por gets the Valkyrie into the top 9, I think, for the first time this season, just ahead of the BMW of Daniel Marsden for Merck Sim Racing. So our top 10 separated by just under 8 tenths there. Just missing out in the top 10 in qualifying was Michele De Rezzo, then Nicholas Henkel in the Pulse Racing Ferrari, Paul Lepere in the Shadow 1 Alpine, Lucas Cedar is 14th for Referox, and Nicholas Ulrich sadly crashed out early in the session, so he will start in a second of our Alien Motorsport Toyotas right at the back of the field.
Yeah, it is a very different set of feelings for the 2 Alien Motorsport drivers. Robin Deschamps once again on the front row, so he seems to be enjoying the qualifying sections of our races really much. After taking pole last time, now he's in P2 again. Nico Ulrich, I think he is anything but happy right now, but I do think that he'll try to make up as many positions as possible in the race. The Cadillacs, we have to talk about them. In Spa, they locked out the front row, and they also look very strong, especially on the start in Silverstone, where Giuseppe De Noia got past the 2 Alien Motorsports Toyotas right as the lights went green. So I think we should have a look at our LMDH and especially Cadillacs in the opening stages of, in the starting phase of our race, because I think they could play a crucial role. It's a very, very long run down into turn 1.
Yeah, I remember Marco Cantor spent the second half of Silverstone stuck behind Robin Deschamps. Wasn't quite able to find a way through in the end. So Cantor will be keen to clear Deschamps as quickly as possible, because I think he does not want to stare at the curvy rear wing of that Toyota for any longer than is absolutely necessary. Then you can see we're yet to see that is Deschamps we're looking at the moment. There's Moritz Ulrich, who's just appeared on the left-hand side there. And you can see the weather radar at the very top there in 78 minutes time. So that'd be with 2 minutes left the race to go. We might see some rain around that period of the race then. So don't think anybody's going to gamble by starting on the wet tires, but that could really throw a spanner in the works in the closing stages then, if that rain comes earlier than expected. So keep an eye out. I've completely forgotten to look at the race director's notes for the second race in a row, which almost certainly would have told me about that in advance then. So formation lap begins as the hypercars lead away the GT3s and get ready for the start, Niclas.
Oh, I'm super looking forward towards this race. Moritz Ulrich and Robin Deschamps, 2 different LMH cars on the front row, and
This is just gonna be a very chaotic race, I can promise you that. So let's hope it's not gonna get too chaotic.
I think Ulrich will be hoping it isn't, that he can just control things from the front. But yeah, just looking at the race direct notes, confirmation, time slot number 5, which is, of course, the final 20-15 minutes or so. It says 40% chance of rain for pretty much the rest of the race. Clear in the first time slot, overcast in the middle 3, of course. So 80 minutes, about to get underway once they get to the end of these final 2 corners, 13 and 14. Of course, New Holland, the final corner, where we saw Niklas Ulrich crash in qualifying. Then the tires will be cold at the start here, especially for our hypercars. We know the Peugeot can be a bit of a handful, so Johannes Price will need to have his wits about him here. But everybody will be so keen to get the jump on one another in this 3rd round of the season. Don't forget, Artyom Manisha has got Lay and Leo Alain still yet to score his first points of the season, starting 3rd behind him. Green flag is flown, and our 3rd round of the contender split gets underway, and it's a very clean start for Moritz Ulrich, but Cantor has followed him past Robin Deschamps, so Cantor immediately on the attack, and now trying to attack the championship leader as he positions himself to the outside into turn 1. It's all getting very congested. You can see that's De Rezo trying to go up the inside into turn 1 and not quite making it through there into top 8. So Daniel Marzen has gained a place at the start here as well. Benjamin George has gone up the inside of Robin Deschamps as well. So Deschamps come from the front row to 6th there. Horrible start for the Alien Motorsports driver. Meanwhile, Artyom Manisha has held position. It's Leo Alain that's got past Alexandre Lay. So it's the Corvettes that are running 1 and 2 then at the start. And GD3, as we see, that is barrier on the outside being shuffled out through turn 4 and into 5 here as they approach the 7 and 8 chicane then. And more bumping. That's Simone Violo's up over Deschamps. That's barrier in the gravel again at 7 and 8, just as he was in qualifying there. And the Opalite man has gone really wide through turn 9 as well, and has dropped well outside the top 10 into P12 there. As I think Deschamps in trouble.
Yeah, Robin Deschamps has caused yellow flags in the middle section of the track. What has happened there to the German as his teammate Niklas Ulrich is making up positions? Let's have a look at the replay. Robin Deschamps got in contact there with Valentin Barrier, flashing in slides. Obviously,
Rezo trying to go inside of both of them. Barrier in the middle, and Deschamps sent out into the wall, losing his rear wing.
No, that's that is a horrific scenario. The first lap of an 80-minute race, and I don't think Robin Deschamps would have even wanted that in the slightest. Yeah, no, he is absolutely out of contention of this race. I don't know if he's DNF'd, but he's most certainly his race has gone to scraps. That is for sure. Artyom Manisha still leads in LMGT3 as Lucas Zida is causing a yellow flag in the middle section of the track, in the first section of the track.
It's going to let Valentin Barry almost get back alongside then. So Zida was, I think, fighting with Henkel and Poor just in front of him, and has had to cut the first chicane then, as this is Paul Lepere defending from Niklas Ulrich, who's gone from the back of the grid, taking advantage of some of the chaos in front of him and got the Alien Motorsports Toyota into the top 10 here. But the Alpine, we saw Paul Lepere defending well at Silverstone. He's intent on doing a repeat performance here. I think big gainers at the start have been Cantor, who's gone up to P2, and Daniel Marzen, who's gone up to P7 with De Rezo in P6 as well. His gap report being overtaken. Barry goes deep in the corner and taps around Lucas Zida. Okay, so it was actually Valentin Barrier misjudging it there, and Zida an innocent victim.
Yeah, and Gabor involved in that incident as well. Luckily, the Aston Martin could avoid most of the scraps that were going on right there. As now Michel De Arezzo is having a look at the Merc Sim Racing car, the golden car, going around the outside. And all of a sudden, there's Alex Gui on the inside, and Daniel Marston loses 2 positions in 2 corners. How unfortunate for the BMW driver, and you know what? I think you might be able to make that 3 lost positions in 3 corners, as Paul Lepere is now setting his eyes upon the Merc Sim Racing driver. Niklas Ulrich is in that fight as well, so a lot of kerfuffle going on in these early stages of the race.
Kerfuffle is definitely the right word, as it's still side by side. Lepere, though, is going around the outside of Daniel Marzen there. Marzen, I think, was trying to make the move on De Rezo, trying to go around the outside at turn 13, which is very tricky to do, and that just opened the door for everybody behind to a freight train him essentially down the start-finish, in the final corner in the start-finish straight then. So Marzen will have to fight to regain those positions. Now he's down in P9 behind Lepere. We know the Alpine has got decent straight line speed as well, so that's going to be quite the conundrum. But meanwhile, up front, Moritz Ulrich has pulled the gap to Marco Cantor to 2 seconds. Cantor's got his hands full of the visceral Peugeot of Johannes Price then. So Price has gained at the start. Benjamin George as well is now up to P4. Of course, George yet to score points this season. So a Codis ASP will be loving this from the Frenchman. He is up in the top 4 ahead of Simone Violo and Michele De Rezo as Artyom Manisha, our championship leader in GD3. It's similar state of affairs in Hypercar and GD3. Our championship leader out front trying to pull a gap. Manisha is about 8/10 ahead of Leo Alain, who is starting to gap Alexander Lay by about half a second here, and who himself has got the Lexus of Kolosov, who's in the top 4 here. So it's good to see Kolosov having another strong run after his great result at Silverstone. We don't really expect the Lexus to be a front runner, but Kolosov is beating the odds at the moment as we look at Michael Thomas holding back our Silverstone winner. Mikolai Hatrishka, as it looks like Niklas Zurich has gone into the runoff at turn 1 and has had to concede to Daniel Marzen. All the while, Nicholas Henkel in the Ferrari, who's gone for a mixed set of tyres here. Looks like hards on the left-hand side and mediums on the right-hand side. He is catching up to them in P11. Also, Marco Cantor and Johannes Price have gone for the exact same tyre choice as Nicholas Henkel. Simone Violo, though, has gone for one hard tyre on the front left. The rest, it's all mediums.
Yeah, a lot of different strategies. Nicholas already sends it down the inside of Daniel Marzen. That was why the Toyota was in the runoff area, and I think that is very, very much indeed on Nicholas Ulrich. He just misjudged his braking point there and tried to send a move on Daniel Marzen, as we have Canton in his Renova competition Lexus facing the wrong way in turn number 3, but now Shatritsky is right behind Thomas. I'm slowly but surely getting better at this. 5 and 6, that is, up behind Kolosov. And there's 2 Akotas ASP cars, both running in the classes in P4. So I think the Frenchmen are going to be very much happy about that indeed, as Moritz Ulrich just is absolutely gone out in front.
Yeah, trying to build a big gap, I think, just in case any rain falls down, that he has got enough time to respond, because he'd be first on the scene as well. Well, depending on where the GT3 cars are as they lap them as well. But either way, my dinner's ready. I was hoping to eat it during qualifying, but it's ready now. So I'm going to go and quickly eat it and come back, if that's all right, Niklas. And yeah, by the time when I get back, hopefully, we will see some more action then. It says it seems to have settled down just slightly. Although having said that, it's almost certainly going to kick off the minute I leave.
Oh yeah, we've got 5-6 cars all together. That is from Michel Diarezzo, who's currently leading this train of positions, number 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and almost 11 as Niklas Henkel is closing in on this pack ever so slightly, and he's got Gabor Paul right with him, so this race is just getting started here. We haven't even reached the first round of GT3 traffic yet, as Alex Guidi is getting ever so bigger in those, well, black and yellow rear mirrors of Michel Diarezzo in his 0-point racing Cadillac. Obviously, the Cadillacs, they haven't looked so strong in qualifying, but Marco Cantor currently running P2, Simone Violo running P5, and Michel Diarezzo running P6. So the Cadillac doesn't seem to be struggling as much as they did in Pro Series. Well, obviously, the Tafton Rastec team is entering these cars, as now Nicholas Ulrich, he did what he was trying to do a few laps earlier on the Merck Sim Racing driver Daniel Marzen, and now Ulrich has gone past Marzen and Barrier, and Cedar are going for that same corner combination, turns 1 and 2, but Lucas Cedar is able to stay ahead of the Oplite Cadillac. 2 Cadillacs fighting for P13. They came together here before. Let's have a look at what Valentin Barrier is going to be able to do here in the white-nosed Cadillac behind that red and black machine of Lucas Cedar, who's entering that car for the Referox Esports team. But it does look like Barrier has to concede for the minute, as Mattia Panchi, who teammate was in trouble, seems to have, well, also faced some sort of issues. You have Henan in his Shadow 1 Esports McLaren behind him. We've got 3 Shadow 1 cars in the GT3 class, and Henan just takes advantage of Panchi temporarily losing grip in the final corner and picks up an easy position. As we have, well, a much more combo race in GT3 than we have in Hypercar for the time being, but now Alex Guidi is ever so closer to the rearing of that Cadillac, but that V8 monster is just absolutely gone down the straight. Guidi does show some signs of a potential overtake here, but he does not commit to it. He's too far back on this occasion, as Valentin Berry and Lucasita have switched positions for P13. They're still fighting. Never mind. Sita is coming back at this, and now Paul Lepere is looking to get his hands on the Italian. As here we have our Cadillac dual barrier going for the inside again, and Sita does the old switcheroo as they both struggle for grip, but maybe we have a double switcheroo right here. Valentin Berry and Lucas Sita. Sita holds the inside line, and Varia is forced to go the long way. Can he utilize the run he has? Out they go, out of 5, into 6, into 7. Barrier on the inside this time, makes contact with Lucasita, both go onto the curb. Oh boys, please keep those Cadillacs out of the wall. They're really going for it here. Now on to the second straight. Barrier has a run, but I think Sita has just that slightly better exit out of the corner, and now Valentin Barrier, oh, he's looking like the much faster driver at this stage of the race, but Sita knows how to keep a Cadillac behind him. And he is doing some excellent job right here in terms of defending the Referox driver, isn't he? As now Barrier is going to get another shot at this. The Oblight Esports driver tucks into the toe of the German that's just in front of him. And he's gaining all the time. To the outside this time. Sita just gives him the minimum amount of space required to fit a hypercar there, and now they go side by side, and Barrier is forced off the road. Sita does give him the space that he needs after all, and now Barrier is going for it again. The old switcheroo, we've seen it about 4 or 5 times in one lap, and now the bumping starts. Oh, these two are not going easy on each other, certainly, but it looks like Valentin Barrier has finally wrestled his way past Lucas Sita. Truly amazing duel between these two, but out in front, Johannes Preiss is looking to make it a visceral 1-2 as he is getting ever so closer towards another Cadillac of Marco Conter, who is currently still standing in second place. Moritz Ulrich 5 seconds ahead of this fight, and Benjamin George and Simone Violo aren't too far off this fight either. So we have this little battle of 4 that is currently catching the GT3 traffic out in front. Top Team Motorsport, that chrome and purple livery Tom Villard will be the first one they pass. Patam Restex, Leonardo Passoni just in front of that, and now Cantor is going to get a Porsche before the braking zone. He can't send it on Passoni, and that is going to help Johannes Preiss closing that gap ever so slightly. Cantor goes around the outside. Preiss sees the gap, uses that gap. Now they have a Mustang to navigate around, as Paul Lepere has made a mistake, and all of a sudden we have 3-4 cars all together just by the span of a few tenths apart from each other. Nicholas Orange looks towards the inside. Alex Guidi is there to hold that one off. Paul Lepere goes wide. Michel Diarrazza goes even wider. Guidi goes the widest, and Nicholas Orange is the one that is going to be laughing the loudest out of this pack as he picks up a lot of positions and gets up into P6. Paul Lepere and Daniel Marston fighting for it. What has happened there? We're gonna need a replay of that. So you have Michel Diarrazza out in front. Alex Guidi goes defensive, sends it on the Diarrazza, goes way too deep. Gabo Poor not really being involved in this fight. There we go, out of turn 4. Ulrich looks towards the inside. Diarrazza, oh, Guidi hits the curb. Lepere hits Diarrazza. Guidi is off by himself. Diarrazza is being sent off by Lepere, and Lepere compromises himself, giving Nicholas Orich a chance to get ahead of him, as now Niklas Henkel is all of a sudden in this fight as well, and they are now taking turns passing GT3s. Henkel around the outside of Passoni, Lepere down the inside, Gabor Poor down the inside, and there goes the V12 machine after the Alpine. I don't think the gap is enough for Poor to have a realistic chance at sending it on the Shadow 1 Esports driver. But on the Pulse Racing driver, my bad right there. Lapierre is the Shadow 1 Esports driver indeed. As now Gabor Poor, he's not really out of this fight. As a matter of fact, it's getting ever so closer, and we are having another five-way fight right here. Henkel, who's behind Ulrich, who has managed to get himself a little breathing room between himself and Daniel Maassen, who's also still ahead of that package. As now Alexandre Ley is setting his countryman Leo Line under some serious pressure. They did start P2 and 3. Now Line is ahead of Ley, and I think Ley is more than looking forward to retaking that position. He's going to have to watch his rear wing members though, because there's Daniel Maassen who sends it down the inside. Oh, that is very much unfortunate for Alexandre Ley. But Leo Line is not really having it any easier. He's having to give a lot of space, and all of a sudden Ley is ever so closer. That rear diffuser of that Corvette, and Paul Pair makes contact with Gabor Poor. They're still 3 wide with Diarezzo and Guidi. Guidi got sent wide, does remain on track though. And I do think that Gabor Poor was under pressure by the Alpine. Now he's getting more pressure upon him because Guidi is looking for it. He doesn't have to slipstream or the straight line speed though. And Michel Diarezzo goes round the outside of the Toyota, gets on the curb, has to brake, and Guidi has fended him off for the time being. But wow, this race is just getting very chaotic as we are starting to approach the traffic.
And that's Mattia Panchi round again at the first couple of corners then. So another Lexus hits trouble. So Panchi, what happened here? We saw Paul Lepere and Barrier going side by side. That's Michael Thomas being lapped by Lepere and then Gabor Poor. Into turn 13 they go. Number 17 hogs the inside and prevents Gabor Poor. Oh, and gets tapped around. Well, there we go. You see Diarezzo going wide now. That's, I think, one of the Toyotas. I think Guidi back through there. So really sort of from 6th downwards in Hypercar, it has been no holds barred. Everybody taking several chunks out of each other and using their cars almost, I dare say, as weapons there. But yeah, you could see Lepere being a little bit cautious at the GT3s, and in return, getting punted in the back by the Valkyrie. And this is what happened. Panchi was fighting with the 720S of Julian Heno, I think. Heno dives up the inside in the 404. No, it's Killian Adolf, sorry. And there we go. Adolf's making a little bit of contact, but it looks more like Panchi spun on his own there, and Adolf sort of just helped him around. Just happened to be there at the same time.
Yeah, just as you said, this race is going to cool down. It started to heat up because this, let's be real, these races only start ever the second we hit the traffic. This is what makes, well, multi-class racing so exciting, as now we have a little fight between 5 and 6 between Thomas and Shrushki.
I like how you thought. I thought you were going to say 5 and 6. You didn't have to say the names of the drivers, but then you did it anyway. And poor Mikolai Hutrushki is going to be hopefully not listening to this and crunching in the cockpit as we destroy his name yet again. But our second place fight is really closed in. So Alain, after making a brilliant start, has not really been able to keep with Artyom Manish and has fallen 3 seconds in arrears. And now Alexandre Ley in the Porsche. We know the Porsche is a pretty decent all-rounder package, especially around here in Barcelona. So any mistakes from Leo Alain, who is not used to running this high up the Contender split field, and Alexandre Ley, the Frenchman who's won in Contender a number of times before, finished on the podium last time out, runner-up at Silverstone, is now looking to get the upper hand on yet another Corvette here. So Ley, if he can clear a lane quickly, I think he might still be in the mix. His last lap, by the way, both of them going a tenth quicker than Manisha. The previous lap, as we see Ley really late on the brakes into turn 10 there at the head. The sort of long, constant radius hairpin there. Kolosov, of course, is not far in arrears either. And then there's about a second to Michael Thomas, who's holding back Mikolai Hutrushki, who continues to be all over the back of him. Johannes Price, by the way, still all over the back of Marco Canto for second in Hypercar 2. So those are the 3 battles, I think, that are going on at the moment. You can see the virtual energy just on the right-hand side of the left-hand side of the screen, next to the driver names, of course. but you can see GD3's on sort of that's 80-60%, I think, for all of them, and pretty similar for the hypercars as well. So not a lot of variation yet. The deeper we get in, and you can see here Hutrushki again trying to scare Michael Thomas in the 0-point BMW off the road into turn 1, but Thomas is not going to be intimidated that easily then. You can see Ulrich not only has got a 7-second lead over Cantor, but he's saved a lot more virtual energy, or at least a percentage more at this point in the race, and that's only going to increase if he keeps his performance up. So Ulrich putting a performance much like we saw at Spa, where he's starting to really take control here.
Yeah, the man of the race for me thus far right now is Benjamin George, because I'm very much surprised that he's still running up in P5 and keeping the same pace as Simone Viola. He really likes to see him this track. The gap between the two of them is only 5 tenths, and he's gained 3 of those 5 on this lap. So, but he's also got pressure from behind. Nico Ulrich seems to be enjoying.
He's about 5 seconds ahead of Ulrich, isn't he? Niclas Ulrich.
Yeah, but it used to be 7, so Ulrich has been closing that gap ever so slightly, but obviously this fight for P2 is still a 4-way fight. For as we speak, Cantor, Price, Viola, George, none of these are to be counted out, and I think all of them could land on the podium if something doesn't go the way of well, somebody else's, of somebody else.
Yeah, certainly it does help when the person in front makes a mistake, but you do have to be there when it matters, and occasionally you can put pressure on someone and they will crack, but it depends the mental fortitude of the driver you're up against, of course, and it can be exhausting trying to follow someone for an entire 80-minute race as well. Just asked Paul Marco Cantor from the previous race. Now he's in a sort of reverse scenario, Johannes Price all over him like a cheap suit. But Mikolaj Hutrushki, of course, has got to get by Thomas some way, somehow. But the BMW, of course, is a pretty handy package around here. Next to the Porsche, the BMW is probably slightly stronger down the straights, but it's another good sort of all-rounder package, and that sort of proved the case, especially in Pro Split, where Jakob Osterman has used it to such strong effect, leading the championship, of course, only by 7 points after he got penalized for the incident with, I think it was Raphael Biela that he spun around in Le Mans a week ago. You were there, Niclas, of course. Yes, you were commentating on it with me. But yeah, of course, so he, instead of finishing second, Osterman ended up being getting a 10-second penalty and finishing P5, which allowed Luke Whitehead in the Mustang, having won at Le Mans, to gain a huge amount of ground in the standings. And of course, neither Osterman or Whitehead has won a title yet in GD3. I think there's been a different GD3 champion in the Pro Split every season so far. And definitely at the moment, we're looking to that tradition, it seems to be about to continue. As now we cut to George, who's all over the back of Violo. As you can see, George has gone for mediums all around. Violo, oddly, has got just one hard on the front left. As we see, is that Cantor that has hit the gravel at turn 7 and 8, and that has allowed Johannes Price through, and Violo now is all over the back of him, looking for a way to the outside here as they go under the bridge and into turn 10. And you can see George now be loving this as well, because we got 2 Cadillacs going side by side into turn 13. Violo looking for the outside the long way round, and if George is close enough, he's trying to close in, but he's not really close enough to dive up the inside there. So this is now going to be a straight line speed battle through the first corners, but crucially, Johannes Price, second in the championship, up to second in the race now, albeit 8.5 seconds behind our race leader.
Yeah, the Toyota hasn't looked as strong as the Cadillac on the straight line speed before in this race, and it does show that Benjamin George is struggling to keep up in the straight line. Simone Violo and Marco Cantor, we have seen this battle before. We have seen them in Spa, we have seen them in Silverstone, and they're coming together again in Barcelona. So let's have a look at what happened here. This is the 7 and 8 chicane, and yeah, he just locked up.
Yeah. Well, after he locked up, he could not get it slowed down in time. He sort of understeered off into the gravel. Could have been a lot worse. He didn't have the problem that Valentin Barrier did, where he went sideways into the gravel trying to save it. So Cantor limited the damage, has only lost 1 position. But yeah, now his old friend Violo, who he collided with while fighting for the lead at Spa. Seems these two always must meet again every race, don't they? So Old Star Racing versus NRG Primo Squadra for the final spot on the podium, with Benjamin George for a Codis ASP waiting in the wings in case anything happens. Niclas Ulrich 4.5 seconds behind for Alien Motorsports in the other Toyota. Meanwhile, in GD3, there's Leo Alain holding back Alexandre Lay and Vladislav Kolosov. So similar to the Hypercar battle, the Lexus, I think, is not quite as strong in a straight line, but it's pretty decent in the corners. And then we got the Porsche versus the Corvette that are fairly evenly matched, but Lay not able to find a chink in the armor for Leo Alain. Alain has defended very, very well so far, knows where the strengths and weaknesses of the Corvette relative to the Porsche are, and the two Frenchmen having a great fight for second position here.
Really, but now, as you said, that Lay runs a little bit wide right there, but so does Kolosov. So these GT3's taking a very wide line there, some of them. As we have so many battles going on for position right now. Obviously, we have the fight of 3 up in front, and then we have this little fight for 5th positions. Thomas still the car ahead in this scenario, leading now into this, well, seemingly very much liked overtaking spot by these drivers, the 7 and 8 chicane. Obviously,
it's more of a mistake spot or an overtaking spot, I would argue, but
yeah, well, we've seen some people going side by side in there, some people trying to 3 wide. That usually doesn't go so well, but now Cantor is under pressure by Violo once more.
And they're lapping the GT3s. That was Mattia Panchi that is good. Here's Tom Villiard into turn 10. You can see Cantor going up the inside and Violo just behind, trying to shadow Cantor and keep a watch. He doesn't want him to get a GT3 in between at a crucial moment in the traffic, as we see. Oh dear, Daniel Marsden has had a spin into turn 10. So as he collided with a GT3 there while trying to lap, he's taking the old part of the Grand Prix when it used to be the hairpin at turn 10. Let's see, so he's behind. That is Niklas Ulrich. In P7 was Daniel Marsden, just ahead of, I think that was Niklas Henkel. Oh, and he's just dropped it on his own. It's luckily spun to the inside and off the racing line, just off it. So Marsden gets going again in P10 as Violo slotting him way up the inside and losing it completely and spinning his way out of turn 4, just avoided by the GT3s in time there. Through goes Benjamin George and Niklas Ulrich into 4th and 5th there. So Violo really diving up the inside. He was on the outside of turn 1, refused to back down, and the consequences have really gone against him. And that's the 3rd time, I think, that Cantor and Violo collided into each other this season.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be friends anymore for the rest of the season. They have had so many contacts with each other, but obviously rivalries are part of the VMS after all, and for us as viewers, this is very exciting to see, as we now see Johannes Preis cutting through the GT3 traffic. That would be P3, 2, 3, and 4, as Alexandre Lay is getting ever so closer to that Corvette, and Lay gotta make a move quickly, because if he stays behind a lane for too long, he will just be vulnerable to Vladislav Kolosov.
Indeed, so Lay cannot afford to just sit behind Leo Alain. He's got to sort of figure something out here. Of course, the conditions you made notice a few minutes ago changing from bright and sunny to overcast. So that shows we're one step closer to rain conditions as we see Michele De Reza going wide. Lucas Cedar in trouble in the background as well, but Valentin Barrier going up the inside through the final corner on De Reza to get past the 0-1 into P11 here, but Michele De Reza refusing to back down. We've seen this from the Italian before. He makes himself difficult to pass. The Ferrari trying to go back around the outside. The Cadillac, they just finish fighting before they come up to lap Leonardo Pisoni. Pisoni, who's not really made a whole lot of progress, he's still down in P11 in his own class, trying to chase Julian Gurin in the Mustang to try and get back into the top 10, the points-paying positions, of course, as now Valentin Barrier clears that particular Mustang that I was just talking about of Gurin. And meanwhile, up front in GT3, Leo Alain still under pressure from Lay and Kolosov as Violo recovering from his spin has just got past them, and he's now going around the outside, flashing his lights furiously at Leo Alain just to make sure he doesn't lose any time at all if he can avoid it though. But Violo has got Henkel 1.8 seconds behind. You can see here comes Niklas Henkel. I saw a comment saying Henkel was sandbagging in the chat. I also saw a comment from Ollie's 1012 who says certainly some interesting racing on display there, and I believe that is VMS Ollie as well. So what do you just seen, Niclas?
I think I'm seeing a fight between Michael Thomas and, yes, here we have the BMW and Porsche that are currently fighting for P5 and P6. We see the hypercar Skepper trying to make his way past Alex Guidi, going very deep into the corner, and that just opens the door. Thomas gets forced wide, and Niclas remains on the inside into the 7 and 8 chicane, but ultimately yields the position to Thomas. What I was originally seeing is that Nicolas Orich has closed the gap ever so slightly to Benjamin George, but Kilian Adolf is wrestling his way past the Porsche of Nikolai.
Side by side they go. Yes, it is Nikolai
there.
You can just keep calling him MC Nikolai Hutrishki. But there we go, Nikolai holding on around the outside. But Kilian Adolf has gone from the back of the grid. He's now up the inside for turn 3. And he's all just at the moment into P7. Can Nikolai Hutrishki keep it round the outside of the grid 404 car? Slides wide, hits the back of the 720S McLaren. It's getting very physical here. There's plenty of telltale dents on that McLaren there. So Kilian Adolf has not been shy about getting his elbows out here, as again Nikolai Hutrishki bumps into the back of him. But that was very, very physical there. So Hutrishki, having lost out in the battle with Thomas, has lost out to both McLarens, Heno and Adolf, both breezing by.
Yeah, and we see this happening once again. We have Alexandra Lay getting down the inside and Leo Line just getting that space from the Corvette that he so desperately needs. And now they make contact. Past goes Lepere, at least past of Kolosov and Diarezzo as well. The hypercar's trying to find a way past, and well, Diarezzo just gets a little bit more. He goes on the grass and 4 wide through turn 6 and 7.
You don't see that very often, do you?
Amazingly, we do seem to see it when the GT3s are being lapped, or when somebody makes a mistake and you have a faster car that doesn't want to lose time. They usually just take the grass up the inside. It's exactly what Davin Rotchek did in his Peugeot when fighting with Fabio Grigoletto. Didn't quite make the move on that occasion. But yeah, it was Lepere losing out quite badly to Dereza there in the battle for P12. Cedar has gone into the pits. So he's the first of our cars to pit in this race then. But crucially, Lay has now made a break for it into second position. You can see the Porsche disappearing up the road for Upright Sim Racing, and Alain still on the podium, but he's got Kolosov all over the back of him, and Alain may have to fight to hold on to what would be his first point of the season, but a podium would still be amazing for the Horizon Racing E-Sunrise driver, as we see Paul Lepere desperate to get back into P12, and Michele Dorezzo trying to use the Ferrari to halt his progress there. Meanwhile, up front, Moritz Ulrich, his progress in the lead 7.5 seconds ahead of Johannes Price. Price has been matching Ulrich's times, but he's not really had an answer so far. And luckily, though, he has pulled 5 seconds away from Marco Cantonau, who's still got Benjamin George about 2.7 seconds behind him, who's been closed in by Nicolas Ulrich. He's got the gap down from, what was it, 8 seconds, all the way down to about one second now.
Keep in mind, Nicolas Orich started this race all the way down in last position, and he's already fought his way up into P5, only a minor 4 seconds off for what is currently 3rd position that is being held by Marco Cantor. So if LG Motorsport pull the right strategy call, by the end of this stint, they might be looking at a podium, which would be an excellent damage limitation. Well, Ayrton Manisha doesn't really have to do that. He's just been pushing flat out, I suppose, considering the amount of VE disadvantage he has over Alexandre Lay. But well, he's got quite a gap to work with right here, doesn't he?
Well, while Lay was being held up by Elaine, he needed to make hay, didn't he? Elaine has saved the most virtual energy, interestingly. 44%, but only 2% more than Alexandre Lay. So we should see Manisha in first. Cedar has filled up the virtual energy tank. I wonder, Lucas Cedar, his only hope now is if the rain comes a little bit earlier and he can switch the wet tires before anybody else does, and if all of his rivals just drop off the road in front of him. But he's a long way down now, and that's bad news for our man, 7th in the championship, isn't he, Cedar? Third. I keep getting mixed up with Dijon.
Oh yeah, he is. So yeah, Lucas Cedar, he hasn't really had a great season other than the opening rounds of the Venus, where he finished a very, very strong 2nd place, which obviously, as endurance round, it counts 150% 150% of points. So that definitely does help him, but this Cadillac does seem to be causing more troubles than it's worth it throughout the course of the season. Let's hope he can bounce back. I mean, he's still got 45 minutes and a whole stop ahead of the rest, so that's his only advantage he really has at the minute.
Yeah, it is 150%, as in 100% and a half, essentially, in the endurance rounds compared to the sprints. Although, interestingly, I did see, I believe, a video clip from, I forget where it was, actually, but I did hear one commentator saying that it was double the points, which I'm pretty sure was not the case. It might have been on the French stream, Le Mans, but it could also have been, in fairness, Google Translate telling me incorrect information of what they're actually saying, because my French is not the greatest. So I do apologize to those guys. It's always great to have a French stream nonetheless. And I made plenty of mistakes myself, so I can't really call out them too much. But anyway, there is Moritz Ulrich. You see 38% in the tank. And it's similar for Manisha and Lay, actually, at this point now. Michael Thomas is under attack from Julian Heno, by the way, in the fight for P5 there. Heno having to back out there. We didn't quite see how Heno got through. Oh, there is that Cedar that's round again. That looked like a Cadillac, so I think it must have been Lucas Cedar then. So Thomas going through turn 3 in 5th position, was losing touch to Kolosov. But he has got Heno in between himself and Hutrishki. Into turn 3 goes. Was he having connection issues? There we go. So that could be a scare then for Michael Thomas. And he will be desperately hoping his connection holds to the end of the race then. Will Michael, of course, I'm trying to remember what Michael Thomas's nationality is. He's a British driver, of course. Could be the heat wave starting to melt the cables then.
Yeah, here I am.
Sorry, I was wondering where you got to.
Yeah, just had to go do something very spontaneous. But yeah, we see Alex 3 hunting down Gabor, who on his own is hunting down Niclas. So
and Manisha pits from the lead, half distance in the race. So this is a very early call. But of course, we did see he was using more virtual energy, so this means it won't have to refill the virtual energy tank as much. But in terms of fuel, he'll have to put a bit more in. So this is really fascinating then, because those later on will hope to splash and actually get back ahead of him. But this puts Artyom Manisha right to the back in 14th position in GT3 class.
Yeah, indeed it does. Gabor still hunting that rear wing of Niklas Henkel, but Henkel has managed to get a respectable gap ahead of the Aston Martin Valkyrie, who, well, we also have to obviously mention that the Valkyrie is not really known for being a car that has been blessed by the BOP. Gabor, it's a very respectable result in a split that he's not even racing full time in.
Indeed, yeah, and it's a bold choice to go with the Valkyrie. It seems whatever season it is, it's always a really exciting choice to very rarely get strong results, although we have seen a couple of drivers on occasion that have mastered it. I think it took a couple of poles in the hands of, I forget the name of the driver from Hong Kong. In
Kobe Chan.
Kobe Chan, of course. Yes, it was Kobe Chan. Yes, it was really strong in the Valkyrie in the top split. So yeah, we'd love to see him back one day. But anyway, you did just see a reminder there. We are into the third time slot of the race then. So time slot 4 will be overcast, but the final time slot, it is about 40 or 50% chance of rain then. So it could well miss us, or it could well really break havoc then in the final stage of the race then. So it could be that Manisha has decided to get his stop out of the way because he knows nobody else is going to get the tank to last until the rain hits then. So he's deciding to sort of jump the gun, undercut everybody, and continue to lap competitively then, as we see our race leader lapping Thomas and Heno in the battle for P4 in GT3 then. So Moritz Ulrich continues to control things up front. Johannes Price actually gained quite a lot, nearly 9/10 on that previous lap. The gap now 6.2, 6.3. So Ulrich having lost a little time lapping the traffic in GT3.
Yeah, Johannes Price is really putting his foot down and getting ever so closer to his teammate, as Valentin Barrier now pits from 11th position on the road, coming into the pit lane with that Opelite Esports Cadillac. Well, Barrier is one of these people that really, he's just barely out of the points, or out of the significant point scoring positions, and he just has to take a gamble right here to try and make a jump, as we have a yellow flag in Sector 1.
I think it's Cedar in trouble.
It was very marginal indeed, and yeah, Lucas Cedar is out of the race.
Oh dear, so that's why, as we see Kolosov up the inside of Elaine into turn 10. Can Leo Elaine hold on to second position here? The Lexus gets a little bit sideways. Kolosov for a Codis ASP by Delta V, really trying to challenge the Frenchman in front of him, but Kolosov is shown the door at turn 13, goes a bit wide. So that was very, very tense for Leo Elaine, but just about holding on by the skin of his teeth then from Kolosov, the Russian driver, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, indeed. I think Kolosov is racing under a flag, which heavily concludes that he is from Russia.
Okay.
Well, yeah, there's a bit of
I don't think there's not really a way
into.
around that, I'm afraid. So
Yeah.
it is what it is. You can't choose where you're born or where you come from, can you? As Daniel Marcin also pits in response, I think, to Barrier. Well, the pair also pit in at the same time as Barrier. We can see the GT3s starting to really hold up. Niclas Henkel, who's backed into Gabriel Paul, who himself is backed into Alex Guidi, the Toyota of Guidi, and the Valkyrie of Paul looking quick here compared to Henkel as they dive up the inside of the 01 Mustang there, as Kolosov finally gets through on Leo Elaine for P2.
Finally, I think Kolosov is now going to be really happy about that one, and Elaine, he looked very strong qualifying, but I think in the race, he's currently losing a bit of positions, a bit more than he'd like for sure. Benjamin George now wrestling his way past his teammate, as he's still being hunted by Nicolas Ulrich, who is now flashing his lights, eager to get ahead of the Horizon Racing Corvette. I am very much interested to see when we're going to see the next wave of pit stops coming up.
Yeah, but that was a crucial move for Vladislav Kolosov because he was being held up by Leo Lane. His last lap time, 1:44.0. Leo Lane, 1:43.8. Michael Thomas, though, right behind them now, set a 1:43.1, 9/10 quicker than Kolosov. So he's still very much in play. He is the 01 esports driver, and you can see Hutrushki is keeping touch with Heno here, and they are still very much in contention for the podium as well. So with Manisha on this different strategy and lapping in the, I think, 42.8 at the moment, as we see a move going on here. Poor up the inside of Nicholas Henkel, and Gabor Poor relieves Henkel of P7 here.
Yeah, Gabor Poor, that one was looking like, well, not the most difficult of moves for the Hungarian, I believe it is.
Indeed.
But I do believe that he would have liked to get that move in earlier. As now Thomas is under pressure by Henao. This is the fight for fourth position, and Henao, we saw him wrestling his way up the order, and he's making that McLaren work, certainly.
Yeah, of course, you see 1:42.1 by Manisha. So Manisha's got clear air. About 23 seconds of it to Davide Canton. So he's making good use of that now, while a lot of his competitors, with the exception of Alexandre Lay, who's lapping in the 42.8 at the moment, all the rest of them, Kolosov, Elaine, Thomas, are still in the sort of 43s and 44s at the moment. As here's another battle. This is Daniel Marzen, who's about to be lapped actually by Moritz Ulrich, as he's desperately trying to fight with Valentin Barry in front of these two. Barry and Marzen have both pit, of course, whereas Moritz Ulrich yet to do so.
Yeah, Moritz Ulrich is really getting his foot down, and he's absolutely been dominating this race from the very starting seconds. He's now gained a whole second on Johannes Preis ever since they have passed the LMGT3 traffic. So I think Ulrich is most certainly the man to watch for the remainder of this race. And I think it's safe to say that he is currently the favorite to win.
But that's a great illustration there of why in hypercar especially you don't want to pit too early, because you just could end up being lapped by the leader, having to let him through and losing time to some of your competitors that have stayed out a bit longer.
Yes, indeed, and I think we're gonna see a lot more people trying different strategy calls because it is really unpredictable with the rain. Valentin Barrier, now he has got an issue that he looks to be a little bit faster than Moritz Ulrich. Maybe he's taking new tires in a way. I doubt, yes, it is very early, but
most certainly after pit stop, it's also kind of a mental thing that it's a new stint, it's a new chance, and sometimes people are just have that mental refreshment after pit stop and look fast. And this is exactly what Valentin Barry is doing right now. He's hunting after Moritz Ulrich. Let's hope for him that Ulrich can pull away and he doesn't lose too much time fighting him.
Well, he'd ideally want to stick with Ulrich, match his lap times, and then he can maybe use that slipstream to sort of gain on his rivals and keep Marzen at bay, crucially. But
if Ulrich is fast enough.
If he is, yes. At the moment, he's lapping still in the 1 minute 30.8, which is nearly half a second to a second per lap quicker than some of the drivers like Barry and Marzen. Of course, they've got a lot more fuel on their car, having made their pit stops, of course, so their cars will be a lot heavier at this point in the race than Moritz Ulrich and the rest of those who haven't pit. As we see, Petrushki still stuck behind Julian Heno, but they're all starting to get dangerously low on virtual energy. Still no sign of the rain with 35 minutes left to go. If it's going to have a big impact beyond like the last few minutes of the race, you can see if it arrives in 32 minutes, that would only be impacting the final 2 laps of the race then. So it needs to arrive sooner than expected if it's going to force people to switch tires there. But nonetheless, it could still make things very tense in the closing laps if there's a huge downpour and everybody is caught out with their pants down on dry tires then. But yeah, the big battles are, of course, Kolosov pulling away from Alain, who's holding back Thomas Heno and Hutrishki. And, of course, don't forget Benjamin George, who's got Nicholas Ulrich now still 8 tenths behind, and the two Toyotas working well together to not hold each other up. But Simone Violo has closed back in on Ulrich because Ulrich has not been able to clear Benjamin George.
Yeah, this race is far from over. We still have 30 minutes to go, 35 minutes to be, 34 minutes to be exact. But, well, we have still so many gaps with under a sec. I mean, look at Leo Line. He's still got a train of 3, almost 4 cars behind him. As Alexander Rollet, I think he's pretty happy with the pace that he's putting on right now. He's got
only
more
2 tenths
speed
slower
than
than Manisha as well. So if he's staying out much longer, he can maybe have a shorter stop and get in front of Artyom Manisha that way. And it is going to be very, very marginal because Manisha's lap times are good enough that it might negate the advantage. You can see he's continued to take a couple of seconds out of Davide Canton in front of him. And oh my goodness me, was that one the visceral hypercar? Was that Moritz Ulrich having an issue through turn 9? Luckily, the connection gets back in. But yeah, he'll be hoping that doesn't happen again.
I mean, that would have been commentated as because that it's fine. It's just what I said 2 minutes ago that Ulrich is absolutely dominating this race and looking as the like the favorite driver to win. Luckily, it just was a connection issue.
Yeah, so there, but for the grace of God, go we. And Moritz Ulrich hoping that his luck will hold. Of course, looking for his second win of the season after winning the endurance race at Spa, trying to extend that championship lead over Johannes Price. As we can see, Petrishki and Heno, as the virtual energy continues to drain out of all of these GT3 cars. They will have to come in the next couple of laps, but who's going to eke it out more remains to be seen, of course. So Leia's got 16.5%, Polosov has got 12.9%, Alain has got 19.2%, Michael Thomas 13.7%, Julian Henry 12.2%, Mikolai Hitrishki at least of all 11.8%, of course.
Diversity is the name of the game here in our GT3 class. We have 5 different car manufacturers separated by 5 positions, as you know, it's a little bit too slow for Mikolai's likings right there, as he hits the back of the McLaren. Obviously, we are okay. The camera issues have solved themselves. Yeah, sometimes you have to fiddle with the cameras on this game. You're gonna have an epileptic surprise. But, well, we can see that the McLaren seems to be very, very good in a straight line.
Yeah, or either that or Hitrishki is trying to save virtual energy then. As we see up the inside the BMW goes Heno, and the Shadow on esports man, the Frenchman, having to back off as he fights the British driver Thomas just in front of him there, and that's all helping Leo Alain. You can see he's just eking out in front of him. Remember, he's got the most virtual energy of all. He might be able to stay out 1 or 2 laps more than these drivers, actually, and that could make a difference in having a shorter stop. It could allow him to still come out ahead and onto the podium.
Yeah, I mean, really at this stage of the race, there's so much still to play for. Manisha, obviously with that big strategy gamble, and Lay, those two that are not directly involved in this fight, but everyone else is still very much in contention for a podium because Kolosov is only 1.8 seconds ahead of Elaine, and Elaine's got that whole train behind him, and Adolf is getting ever so close as well. So I think at this stage of the race, it's still very much possible for everyone to be a part of this, well, little fight for, which is essentially P4.
27 minutes until we reach overcast and rain conditions, according to the timing screen there. As we look at the back of Julian this is Michael Thomas, sorry, in the BMW. There's Heno, and Utrishka's Congratel has hit trouble. There we go. So he's had a big spin somewhere. Oh, and across the track there, and that's Julian Gurin cutting the track, and Michele De Rezzo is around as well, trying to avoid the Shadow 1 Mustang. So Congratel had a spin. I think everybody panicked trying to avoid him. Here you go, into turn 10 he comes in 8th position. The rears just let go, he lights them up like a Christmas tree, and then Gurin and De Rezzo just collide into each other, not knowing which way to go. That was Gurin trying to avoid his teammate and end up causing a separate incident. Then I don't think Michele De Rezzo will appreciate that one. As in comes Cantor for his pit stops. He's the first of our leaders to come in.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to be really hitting anyone when you lose the car and spin, but I think your teammate is one of the people that you do not want to hit at all. As now this little fight for P3 on the road is being passed by race leader Morris Orich.
Ulrich losing a couple of seconds to Price again in the traffic. So
exactly,
Price is either dealing with traffic better or he's coming upon it at a easier down the straights, which are easier to negotiate. Although having said that, he is being stuck behind someone just now and has lost a little bit of time as the gap going from 3 seconds to 4 seconds there. Certainly Price has halved the gap in all of this in the last couple of laps. The last lap, I should say.
Yeah, most certainly, as now we have a lot of fights going on, and Mikolai is just inching ahead of Shadow 1 Esports McLaren of Julian Henao, who is now still considering he's not just considering, he is staying out for one more lap, and I think we're going to see these two in the pits in the nick of time.
But which order will they pit in as Mattia Panchi gains a position, because Pisoni is coming into pit lane, so the Porsche for Tartan Resnick Esports can go no further. Interestingly, the hypercar leaders are also very low on energy, as we see Poor and Henkel coming in. We actually saw Cantor come out about 30 seconds ahead of Valentin Barrier there, so that shows you how much you can gain from pitting a lot later and having a quicker splash and dash. Fuel stop there, as we see Henkel and Poor being serviced. Cantor should easily come out ahead of them into 7th position. Alex Guidi, I think, is also heading for the pit lane on 3.1% of energy. So I think only Johannes Price might be staying out the extra lap compared to his competition, as there's Manisha now, who has gained positions on Pisoni, Gurin, and Congratel. But I think he is hoping to emerge back in the lead. It could be very close between himself and Lay here.
Yeah, Niklas Henkel now coming into the pits as well. As you said, this is going to be very, very interesting indeed. Moritz Ulrich will have one more lap to complete after crossing the line, unless he decides to come in a little bit earlier. Johannes Preis looking like he has 2, maybe 3 more laps in that tank. Strongly depending on how much you burn here. Ulrich through the final corner, 4% remaining. That equals 1 lap. And Preis, 8% remaining. That equals 2 laps. So 2 different approaches here. Benjamin George gets compromised on the exit end.
That was Heno going into the pit lane there. Kolosov also beats him in, and so too does Leo Elaine. Is that coming in as well? Yes, there we go. So Thomas through to 2nd, Petrushki through to 3rd. Manisha should be able to get ahead of these drivers, and he's also set the fastest lap in the process. He knows this is the time to push. 142.5 famous. Petrushki is coming to a stop on the pit entry there, and Petrushki is out of the race. Has he run out of virtual energy here, maybe? Tried to do a lap too long, I think.
yeah, we saw that at the end of the last lap, he's already had 4% of VE remaining. I think maybe he got compromised on the pit entry by a hypercar that was lapping him at that very moment in time. But yeah, what an unfortunate end to the race of a Silverstone winner.
Yeah, that is gutting for Nikolai Juszczyk. He was unlucky at Spa, which took place during a heat wave, and that he's the one actually was the most concerned about driver health. Had a couple of issues towards the end of that race that dropped him out the points. One Silverstone Domino in here. He's just not had very much luck, has he, in the Porsche, especially. But that crucial mistake, clearly, he either realized he was going to get a 100-second penalty, decided to retire, or couldn't get, as you say, couldn't get into the pit lane because the hypercars blocked his path. So Manisha now has got going 5.7 seconds ahead of Kolosov. So again, Lay, it's difficult to say what the gap could be. I think he is about, let's see, Manisha's about 40.7 seconds behind Lay in the order then. So it's going to be very, very nip and tuck as Ulrich and George are going into the pit. So Johannes Price takes the lead as we look at Niclas Ulrich now released after pitting behind Gabor Por.
So
Por is undercut him, I think.
Yeah, he's in a very good position, Gabor Por, right now, isn't he? At the time of Niclas Ulrich's pit stop, Benjamin George was just a few turns ahead of him. So maybe Gabor Por has wiped out an absolute masterclass of a strategy. That is if he can keep the Toyotas behind. Moritz Ulrich now re-entering the track in third position with a very comfortable gap over Marco Cantor. Benjamin George is the man to watch though. Cantor floors it. The Cadillac is roaring down the main straight and George is just exiting the pit lane.
Ooh,
Has Ulrich maybe swapped tires, which is why he lost so much.
So there we go, Cantor on the outside, but Benjamin George gets the apex first and is ahead then into fourth position for a Cody's ASP by Delta V. So the Frenchman pitting a bit later than Cantor by about 4 or 5 laps has had a huge effect then, as allowed George to leapfrog the Italian in the order then. Of course, they're fighting for P4 at the moment, but we're yet to see Price or Violo pit ahead of them, so we don't know where they're going to filter in that sort of course, it's 19 seconds between George and Ulrich, so we expect Price to come out somewhere in there. Violo should come out behind these two.
Yeah, these two are really fighting for it. Now we see Violo coming into the pits. Johannes Price stays out for one more lap, so the German has really saved a lot of VE trying to get ahead of his teammate. And I do think that he's going to play it a little bit more risky and fuel even less. That would shorten his stop time even more. But he'd have to keep Moritz Ulrich behind then. We now see Michael Thomas and Julian Henao, the fight for P4 and P5.
Oh, Alexandre Lay in the pits as well in the lead. So this is close with Manisha, who I think is closing in, is about 12 seconds behind and closing then, but he might be that a little bit too far back. So Lay doing the splash adjusting later is now getting to the end of the pit lane here. 6 seconds the gap now. Manisha will have to just absolutely floor it and hope that he can get in front of the Porsche here. Down the straight they go, and I think Manisha is going to be side by side and just ahead then of the Porsche as the Porsche gets out of the pit lane and gets up to speed then. So Lay will have slightly more virtual energy to play with, but not a whole lot then. So Manisha pitting early has seen off the threat from Lay, but Lay a lot closer than he was at the opening stint of the race then. So aggressive strategy from Manisha, but the championship leader still in command. Here's Price pits from the lead in hypercar then. How close can he get to Ulrich?
Johannes Price now being lifted up in his pit box. The question is, how far down the pit lane is he? I think it is, yes, it is box number 25, as we can see by the 25. So it's more towards the end of the pit lane, but I think Ulrich is going to pass him. Nonetheless, he is coming around the final corner right now, flooring the Ferrari down towards the start-finish line. Where is Price? He's gonna be able to accelerate now, and Ulrich, he's ahead, but it's not a lot.
There we go. Manisha retakes the lead in GD3, and Ulrich retakes the lead in hypercar. So it's still a Visceral Esports 1-2 in the hypercar class. Violo has actually jumped ahead of Benjamin George. So pitting a bit later means Violo is only just ahead of George, who himself is just ahead of Cantor then. So there's a great fight for P3 going on. The Old Star Racing, this time Violo and Cantor separated mercifully by Benjamin George, who will hope to take advantage of any more collisions between these two. But George has had a really fantastic race, hasn't he? Unfortunately, Niclas Ulrich, who was so strong in the first stint, is now stuck behind Gabor in the fight for P6. The gap there, 0.3 of a second as well. So really, this final stint depends if Price's hards on the left-hand side are going to perform better than Moritz Ulrich, who's still got the same set of mediums on all four corners of the car that he started with here. Johannes Price, of course, he has almost half the gap to what it was earlier in the race, to just 3.5 seconds then. So Price has got to get his foot down and has got to keep the pressure on Ulrich if he wants to take his first win of the season and his first win in contender split in a long while, of course, as now we see Kilian Adolphs is trying to take the final points paying position away from, that must be Lucas Congratel up the inside. Congratel tries to squeeze from the outside and stick his nose in, and at number 17 that was never going to work out, Lucas. And actually his big spin early, I think that was a bit desperate from Congratel. So Kilian Adolphs continuing to fight his way through the pack then. Next up, he's got to clear, that must be Mattia Panchi, who's just 0.8 ahead of him now, as looks like Benjamin George has got a good run on Simone Viola.
Yeah, Benjamin George really struggling for straight line speed in that Toyota, and yet again he's not really able to close up the gap to Simone Viola. But I do think that he would be the quicker driver if he could find a way past the Cadillac, and I think both Toyotas, George and Ulrich, could both go so much faster, but they're just not really able to get past the Cadillac and the Valkyrie because of a lack of straight line speed. So if they want to get past, they have to try it in the corners, and Benjamin George is inching ever so closer to the back of Simone Viola. I think the game that George is playing right now is just trying to force Viola into a mistake and trying to get ahead in the corners rather than on the straight.
Yeah, of course, Cantor Viola gets really all over the curb there. You can see they've all turned their headlights on as the overcast conditions continue to see the sky darken then. So we're not far away from the projected rain now, as George is weaving into turn 10, just trying to put off Viola more than anything. But he's got to be careful because Cantor is now right behind him. So George, a bit of inexperience here, could catch him out if he leaves the door open for his Italian rival behind then. And these three continue to duel very close. Don't forget, Gabor has really gained in this pit stop phase. He's only about 2 seconds behind them, and he's dragging Niclas Ulrich with him.
Yeah, Benjamin George once again not really being able to close up the gap on the straight. We did see Viola making a mistake earlier, so all the pressure is seemingly getting to the Italian sooner rather than later, as now Cantor is trying to find his way past Benjamin George to, well, also get his hands on Simone Viola, because I think that he still has something to sort out with him on the track. Gabor and Niclas Ulrich, as you said, they indeed are gaining. It looks like Gabor is currently the one that is gaining a little bit more than Ulrich, as Viola makes another mistake, and that allows Benjamin George to maybe launch an attack into 6 and 7.
There we go. While this is going on, by the way, Johannes Price, last lap round, was 0.4 quicker, over 0.4 quicker than Moritz Ulrich, 131.0. So Price is starting to fly out there and put the pressure on Ulrich then. But these three locked together in close combat here, and Benjamin George tries to get the Toyota as close as he can to the Cadillac of Viola. And he's sort of in the Cadillac braided sandwich here, with Cantor nipping at his heels too. And you can see the Valkyrie inexorably closing 1.7 seconds behind now. So he's gained a couple more attempts. As you can see, George trying to get to the inside through 13. He's got the front half of the car almost alongside as they go into the penultimate corner, and Viola muscles it back under control. But Benjamin George sticks his nose in and gets into 4th position. Fantastic stuff from George.
Yeah, now Cantor is obviously seeing an opportunity right here, and Viola being vulnerable, and I think that's really what he's aiming for. Viola goes defensive on the inside, not wanting Cantor to be alongside him. Cantor looks for the inside regardless, and I think we're going to see a very hefty fight between these two in a very short amount of time. As Kilian Adolphs is also pressure, putting Panchy under massive pressure in his McLaren, trying to get into P9.
Yeah, of course, Ados from the very back of the grid, now trying to get another couple of points here, but Mattia Panchy will hold on to them as hard as he can. Pisoni as well as another driver that pit really early and has gained ground. I think Panchy on the same strategy as well in the Lexus. So that's why Adolph's in the McLaren who pitted a lot later is going a lot more quickly than them at the moment. You can see this fight continuing on. Last lap round, Moritz Ulrich responded to Johannes Price, but seeing a 31.4 himself again. This time Johannes Price had a slower lap, 131.9, half a second off the pace then. So all that good work from Price has evened itself out at the one more lap along. As we see Adolphs has passed Panchy in the background. As you can see, Benjamin George being a little bit held up here, and Violo senses a chance to get back through into fourth position here. We're about 12 minutes away now from the forecast rain.
So,
And Adolphs has made a mistake
yes.
at the final corner, and that's
Look
let
at George.
Panchy back through. So I think Adolphs has hit the gravel.
Look at George and Violo as well. Now we have so much action going on in this straight. Violo is going to send it down the inside. No, he's not. He does show his nose, letting Benjamin George know that he is not gone just yet. As we see a replay from Adolphs and Panchy, and I think it was just the mistake that Adolphs had on his own, carrying a little bit too much speed, washing wide, and almost losing the rear of the McLaren. I wonder how he kept that out of the wall. Oh my god. But then
Not the safest rejoin in the world, but there we go. No harm done. That's almost, wasn't it Adolphs that did exactly that in qualifying as well near the end? So
I think it was.
Oh no,
I think it was
no,
a
he
line.
was in the grid. Yeah, it was Leo Elaine, sorry, that did that. Elaine, by the way, in P6 at the moment, behind Heno and Thomas. So hitting when he did has not worked out for him, has it? As he's lost that podium position. Well, he had lost it to Kolosov anyway, but he's also lost fourth and fifth now as well, as Heno and Thomas continue to duel in front of him. Violo, though, has not given up on trying to relieve Benjamin George of his third place, of course. So Benjamin George is now back on course for a first ever podium, not only his first points in Contender, but a podium to boot then. And you can tell here, Violo and Cantor are starting to run out of tricks here. George just looks that little bit stronger. And George, of course, has used the same set of mediums since the start, whereas Violo and Cantor are both on mixed sets of a hard and medium tires.
Yeah, and here we got our two race leading cars, Moritz Ulrich and Aitor Manisha, both running the Visceral Esports livery and obviously competing for the Virtual Esports team. They have had a day to forget in Silverstone last time around. And let's hope that if Johannes Price catches up to Moritz Ulrich, that things are not going to go the wrong way. And now that I said that, things are most certainly going to go the wrong way.
Knowing commentators.
Well,
first.
we know the rain, it's not far away apparently, so we'll have to see if those windscreen wipers start moving. No further forecast projected then, so it could actually not arrive altogether then. It could be that the rain has moved back in the forecast after the race ends then. So it remains to be seen. It was about 40% chance going in then, but if it, I was going to say if it does hit, then Johannes Price with hards on the left-hand side of the car could have more of a difficult time maintaining tire temperature. But these overcast conditions seem to suit the Peugeot slightly more than the Ferrari. But Moritz Ulrich, I think, has got enough pace in hand at the moment to fend him off. Benjamin George, by the way, has used 2% more virtual energy than Violo and Cantor behind him. So that could keep things very tense, as George knows he's got to conserve. Oh my goodness me! And that is Panchy and Adolphs crashing into each other down the straight. And oh dear, what is Panchy doing? Not holding his brakes as he reverses back onto the track. Miraculously avoided by everybody. But I think things are getting just way too hot to handle. So Adolphs is caught back up to Panchy after he's off earlier on. And has he just got really frustrated here?
So Adolphs getting a little
hits
bit
the back of him.
Oh.
And then, it's just a miscommunication. So Panchy is out of control after being hit by Adolphs and then slides into the back of him.
Yeah, but that...
Oh, and that was barrier that just avoided
yeah,
Panchy.
that's... could have gone very, very wrong, very, very quickly. And yeah, well, this is why you have to hold your brakes when something like this happens. That I think it's the curb that unsettles the McLaren just a bit. And... oh no, it's the curb that unsettles the Lexus. Panchy loses a lot of momentum, and Adolphs just hits the back of him, not expecting Panchy to go this slow.
And yeah, well, that is very, very unfortunate.
Here we go then. So, tucked in right behind into turn 9. You can see Panchi going wide over the curbs, gets a bit destabilized, which hurts his momentum. And Adolf gets a bit caught out by this. Taps Panchi. Panchi's around. You could just see in the distance on the sort of bridge cam there, both of them hitting the barrier. Very dramatic. And then the pack behind swerving to avoid. So, well, either way, I think Adolf's falling down to P9, but Panchi is out of the race then.
This will get interesting between Viola and George. We saw the Cadillac has a very, very strong top speed compared to the Toyota, but can Viola suck onto the back of Benjamin George? The gap is getting closer and closer. Viola shows himself again into turn 1. He's a GP3 there. That could maybe be a chance. Benjamin George is going to have to go the long way around, and you can see Viola closing in ever so slightly. Is he going to attempt to go for the inside there? And yes, they are side by side now. Viola just behind Benjamin George, though.
That was tense, them going either side of Artyom Manisha, and now you see Kanta is trying to go around the outside of Manisha as well through turns 3 and into 4. But yeah, very, very yeah, because of course Viola had the shorter line, but George just about had enough momentum. The problem for George is he's got 2% less virtual energy, so he's used quite a lot getting through and defending. 2% may not sound a lot, but once we get into these closing couple of stages, it could get very, very tense. I believe Benjamin George 19.6 compared to Viola 21.2 at the moment.
Yes, Viola is looking ever so hungry, and George makes a mistake, and all of a sudden there's a door wide open for a Cadillac to take. Benjamin George is going to have the inside line to try and hold on to his position, and he forces Viola very much wide. So, and Viola is not going to be happy about that. We know the Italian is very, very temperamental when it comes to that. I don't actually know if that is a word in English. It is most certainly in German.
It is.
But here we go. It's temperamental. Okay, very much. I'm getting some English lessons right here as we are watching Viola getting ever so closer to Benjamin George, and he's not really getting alongside him.
Yeah,
but
there we go.
the gap to Kapoor is closing.
But look at the delta there. As you can see, actually, Leo Lane had a very long stop in the pit lane, even though he's got less virtual energy. So I think he must have got held up by another car, as old DeRezzo has fallen behind Paul Lepere in the fight for P12 yet again. But you can see Heno, 17%. He's got 5% less than Thomas behind. So Heno will have to do some saving. In fact, already has been doing so, because you can see Julian Heno's dropped 5 seconds behind Kolosov now in the fight for P3. So now it is all about 4th place here. Can Michael Thomas get through here? Can Julian Heno even get to the end? It's going to be very, very marginal here. And I think Leo Alain has also got about 4% more than Julian Heno too. So Thomas gets through. Expect Leo Alain to follow through closely.
Yeah, Julian is going to have to play a very, very defensive game at this stage of the race. And there is maybe an opportunity for Thomas. He's really looking forward to getting ahead of the McLaren, and does show himself from time to time, but really can't commit to a move just yet. I think that through this braking zone, if he nails this exit, we might see something happening.
Here we go, through turn 9. They come, the fast right-hander, and then back down as they make the approach towards turn 10. This is where we, of course, saw Adolphs and Pantry come together not long ago, but our 3 GD3s get into turn 10. Will there be a little bit of contact as Thomas looks to the outside, but that could open the door for Leo Alain's Corvette. Leo Alain, of course, now back on the outside as they go through turn 12. So definitely trying to put the pressure on, but one false move here, and these positions 4th, 5th, and 6th could change hands. And of course, Leo Alain still looking for those first points of the season. Where's Michael Thomas in the championship? He is P9, of course, having gotten quite a few points. As we see, Guidi is in the gravel, and he's lost the rear wing, so he's gone well wide out of, that looks like turn 2 and 3 there.
Yeah, so Alex Guidi getting very, very wide onto the curbs. Oh yeah, I think that is an issue that Orich has told me about in practice, that the Toyota just gets very much unsettled if you touch the outside curb under braking there. And
this is
That's
very
gonna cost him
unfortunate for
points
Guidi.
then.
Just 6 minutes with 6 minutes remaining. Oh, this must be so frustrating for the Italian.
It'll be difficult to get back to the pits there as he goes wide out of turn 9. And yeah, it's a little bit like trying to drive a shopping trolley with one of the wheels missing when you haven't got a rear wing. You can see the suspension buckling as well, as that hit with the wall has certainly not helped. So Guidi could well be out of this one, given how close we are to the end. There goes Marzen, who's going to go around the outside and take the final points paying position there in the hypercar class. Meanwhile, the leaders in the hypercar, still 2.5 seconds between Ulrich and Price, as we see, Leo Alain diving up the inside of Thomas. Thomas very much left the door open there. Not sure what happened there.
Yeah, I do think that Michael Thomas maybe got compromised on the braking there by the McLaren.
Oh dear, and Nicholas Ulrich is in the gravel. He was fighting with Gabor Paul, and it's all gone horribly wrong. Nicholas Henkel's got past the both of them into P6.
I think it might be the very same position that just happened earlier. Have I jinxed Nicholas Ulrich as we see Ulrich on the brakes?
He's done the exact same thing.
Yeah, and he hits Gabor Paul. It seems to be a Toyota issue at this stage. Luckily for him, he has avoided the wall. But yeah, well, that are his chances of a podium. Absolutely.
And I think George has lost third as well. Look at this. Into a 7 and 8 he comes. Has he locked up and understeered? No, he's lost the back end, so the rear tire's fading away. Viola and Cantor take the gravel to avoid him. But that would be frustrating for George. The podium literally slips out from underneath him.
Yeah, but it does help him that Ulrich and Poor behind get severely compromised, so he's quote-unquote only losing 2 positions.
He's got Nicholas Henkel right behind him as well.
As we now see 2 teammates, plus the 2 cars running the number 0 of 0 Point Racing entries, surprisingly. I
wonder if Thomas has got more virtual, but I wonder if maybe he was lifting, coasting, and leaving the door because he was low on fuel. And that's what's allowed Julian Heno, Leo Alain through to challenge Julian Heno, as this is Benjamin George. He's got Henkel and the Pulse Racing car all over the back of him. You can see Henkel with 1% more virtual energy. The Ferrari still handling well, of course. We know Moritz Ulrich is leading the race, but only by 2 seconds over Johannes Price, who's cut a little more in, but it's that lead. But they are running out of time here. No sign of rain, so this is going to be a straight fight for the hypercar lead then in the final couple of laps then, as you see Nicholas Henkel with better exit there. He's now right behind George as they come towards turn 9, but it's all kicking off ahead of them side by side between Cantor and Viola. Well, we've seen this before. Viola's got the inside, Cantor trying to go the long way round. Viola extends the braking zone, sort of shuts the door, and there's Cantor flashing the lights at his rival in the Cadillac there. And this is either going to end clean or it's going to end in tears between these two again.
Yeah, these two are not going to become friends, so Cantor down the inside and then trading a little bit of argy-bargy down the back straight into the corner. Viola just throws out an elbow for Cantor, and Cantor is not happy about this whatsoever. Both of these guys have the same amount of VE, so either they make it or both of them will have to pit. Nonetheless, this is for position, and now we've got a Shadow 1 Mustang in the way, and the Toyota that's coming out of the pit lane on fresh tires, Alex Guidi.
Benjamin George, still quite low in virtual energy, about the same as Moritz Ulrich, but he's about 30 seconds down the road, of course, from the race leader. So yeah, you can see that huge gap between Price and Viola sort of tells a big story about the third place fight, doesn't it, in this race? As you can see there, Nicholas Henkel now got a chance to challenge for P5 here if he can force George into a mistake as they thread their way between the I think Davide Canton just being negotiated there. Lucas Congratel now starting to hold up Benjamin George. They're soon going to let Personius. Oh, look at the windscreen wipers going. It has started raining with just under 3 minutes, 2 minutes to go. Sorry, so this is exactly on schedule then. And is it going to start raining really hard? Well, either way, it's a one more thing that I feel did not want to have to deal with. And Nicholas Ulrich has got to survive for this lap and one more. And nobody's surely going to be able to change for wet tires and make up the time in time. So it's all about surviving now.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very difficult for these drivers to keep it on track now. I mean, the rain, it did come, yes, but obviously I don't think I need to tell anybody with 90 seconds to go, we do not expect anyone to pit for wet tires, quite obviously. So this track is gonna be a little bit more slippery, a little bit more dangerous, and I hope for these two that they can both keep it clean and out of the wall, because it could be two very strong results for these two after having a rather difficult opening to the season, as Michael Thomas is all over the back of Leo Alain. We can't really decide on where to look first, but now let's stick with the two Cadillacs. Cantor is almost half a car alongside Violo. Violo breaks himself ahead of his Italian countryman and remains ahead for the time being, but I sense Cantor is going to plan something coming into the next hard-braking zone.
Oh, and Barriers got past Niclas Ulrich as well for P8 then. So Valentin Barriers' fight back in this race has certainly been something to behold. It's not been easy for him after that horrible first lap, but now Cantor with one final chance of Violo. Johannes Price is 1.3 seconds behind Ulrich. He's given it absolutely everything to try and win this one, but Moritz Ulrich knows just 18 seconds left on the clock. They, I think, are about to start another lap here. As you can see, Cantor looking up the inside, return to it, makes contact and spins round Violo. Oh no, that was a bump and pass if I've ever seen one, and Violo is furious.
Yeah, but that could have ended a little bit worse if he did hit Violo back into the correct
and pull the Perez out.
But I kind of felt that was gonna come sooner rather than later with a GT3.
And Cantor slowed down to let Violo through after this while we're watching this replay. But yeah, as you say, the GT3 distracting him. Oh dear.
Yeah. I think Cantor nonetheless is gonna have to try give it all this on this lap, because this is the last lap of the race for these
Thomas
two.
back through ahead of Alain.
Yes, Thomas back through Alain. Let's see if he can challenge Henao, who still stands in 4th place and will have to lift. Maybe a move coming up into the braking zone here. But Thomas has a little wiggle, which compromises his line. He's going wide though, which could mean a switchback.
Alain has realised this is going to be the final lap, and he knows he's got enough virtual energy to get to the end now. As there's Moritz Ulrich, Johannes Price breathing down his neck, 6/10 behind. It's going to be close, but no cigar for Johannes Price then, as the rain continues to fall down. At the final corner come our two Viscerals, but it's Moritz Ulrich for the 2nd time this season, winning here at Circuit de Catalunya in Barcelona to extend his championship lead. Johannes Price takes his best result of the season so far in P2, as, look at this, to the outside of Henno goes Michael Thomas. He's going to try and get the inside for turn 12 as they go through turn 11. The BMW not quite far enough alongside, and I think Viola now is coming to the line quite soon now to take P3. Manisha has won in GD3 ahead of Alexandre Lay by 7 seconds, an impressive 2nd win of the season for the Belarusian, but it's getting very, very congested here. There's George and Henkel just coming through our podium fight here. Oh, and Henno has gone over his virtual energy somehow, so that is a 100-second penalty, and that is going to lose him that 4th position. So Thomas will take 4th and Alain will take 5th.
Oh, so unfortunate to get that in the last corner. I think Henno is biting in his rear right now. He didn't do enough saving, unfortunately, for him. Oh, how unfortunate.
Because on my graphic it says he had it said that he had a little bit more than the drivers he was fighting with, but yeah, I thought he was saving more than he needed to, like 7.1 going into that final lap, but actually he was a lot lower than I thought, or maybe overconsumed to try and defend. But there we go, that's going to put Henno out of the points very much in P12 and last.
Marcin Michel Di Lorenzo is gonna come home in P11. Marcin rounds out our top 10 in hypercar, taking home his 1st point of the season. So congrats to the BMW driver as well. And I think that's everyone that has finished and returned to the pit lane.
Here we go. So only 11% rain in the end, but it was enough to create quite a bit of drama there. So let's take abreast. Let's keep abreast of the final results there. I don't know what I thought I was commentating on there, but anyway, Artyom Manisha then, for the 2nd time this season after 47 laps, takes the victory and extends his championship lead. Alexandre Lay, for the 2nd race in a row, will be the runner-up for Opelite Esports Team Gold for the gold. Well, was the gold split, but is a contender split now, of course. And it was a 7 seconds the gap in the end between those two. Kolosov was a somewhat distant P3, but another podium for the Lexus man. So Kolosov will be delighted with that. Michael Thomas gets a late P4 there, triumphing in that very close battle with himself, Leo Elaine and Julian Henno. Elaine taking his first points of the season in P5 in the Corvette for Horizon Racing E-Sunrise. Tom Valliard also getting a strong finish in P6 for Top Tier Motorsport. Kylian Ados recovers from the very back of the grid to P7 then, despite that huge contact with Panchi that cost him a lot of time. Sony is also going to take his first points of the season in P8, if I'm not mistaken. Oh no, he did score in Spa as well. He scored 6 points in Spa, but this will be also another 4 points going his way. Lucas Congratel also gets a strong finish. His first points of the season in P9, and Davide Canton somehow survives to take P10 despite the Renova competition. Lexus looking a bit all at sea. Horrible bad luck for Julian Henno, sorry. Julian Guerin was also a bit off the pace in P11, but Henno suffered the most with that 100-second penalty, dropping him from 4th to 12th then with the Virtual Energy just being exceeded at the final corner. Sadly for Mattia Panchi, taken out in that crash with Vados and Mikolai Hatrishki as well, running out of energy before his pit stop. So that's really gone against him. Moritz Ulrich wins by just half a second from Johannes Price. So Price then had a decent qualifying in the top 4, got into the runners-up position early on, put the pressure on Ulrich, but Ulrich did not crack, and the result is he takes his second win of the season. So these two still the top 2 in the championship. Simone Violo takes his first podium of the season, if I am not mistaken, a second after he was runner-up at Silverstone, of course. Marco Cantor is a 4th, then just behind him after contact on that last lap, of course, or penultimate lap between those two. Cantor very sportingly giving the position back, so maybe he will get a Christmas car from Violo after all at the end of the season. Benjamin George takes his first points of the season in P5 for a Codis ASP by Delta V. Good job by the Frenchman to hold back Nicholas Henkel for Pulse Racing. Gabo Pour, despite being taken out near the end by Nicholas Ulrich, still comes home in P7. Valentin Barrier takes Ulrich on the final lap to take P8. And then Daniel Marsheim will round out our point scorers. The Merck Sim Racing BMW taking the last points paying position in P10. Michele D'Arezzo just misses out in P11 for 0 Point Racing. Alex Guidi was 2 laps down. Messy race for the Toyota man once again, sadly. And so not getting to the end was Paul Lepere. We didn't see what happened in the closing stages. I believe Lepere either got disconnected or crashed out. Lucas Seed and Robert Deschamps also had horrible races as well. Both of them hitting trouble early on. This is what happened to Lepere into turn 1. You can see that is Lay just going by and Lepere slowing to a crawl. So some sort of issue. It wasn't a connection issue. It was either a hardware issue or potentially some sort of fuel or brakes issue. So there we go. That concludes our 3rd contender round of the season. And despite the rain coming very late, a very dramatic end, Niclas. So I believe we've got Moritz Ulrich, our race winner, waiting to be interviewed by us. And I'm excited to hear what our runaway championship leader has to say.
Not long, that one.
So we are now joined by Visceral Esports' very own Moritz Ulrich, who beat his teammate Johannes Price by the slender margin of half a second in the end. Well, Moritz, after the disappointment of Silverstone, this put your championship back on track, and certainly a dramatic end as your Price put the pressure on, but you held them up beautifully. Talk us through that one.
I mean, yeah, obviously Silverstone was quite disappointing for me, so I'm happy to bounce back like that. Yeah, pace was pretty strong all in all. I was a bit surprised again with the pace of the hards. I thought they would drop off more once it started cooling down. But yeah, in the end, I had a bit of unlucky traffic that kind of didn't help with Price. But in the end, I just managed the gap and yeah, won the race.
Yeah, Price, of course, stayed out, as was his strategy at Spa, fun enough. He stayed out this couple of extra laps. Were you at all worried that he was going to come out ahead, or did you think he had enough in hand?
No, I knew I had the gap, but obviously the wingless Peugeot is just so good on energy and its tires. It's always difficult to keep them behind in the race. But I was managing, and I knew, I think before the pit stop, I had like a 4 to 5 second gap. I knew that there wasn't going to be a threat of an overcut. But obviously, it gained them a bit of time, so that was the only worries. So yeah, it was fine.
Well, congratulations on your second victory of the season, Moritz. Niclas, any questions for our championship leader and race winner?
Well, it was a pretty dominant performance, and well, he didn't have to fight a lot, so not really any questions from my side. Just congratulations to winning your second race of the season and expanding your championship lead.
Thank you very much.
Anyway, so that is our race winner dealt with. Let's see who else we have that might be interested to talk. I believe Daniel Marzen is down there in the waiting room, having taken his first point in a contender split. So not the cleanest race for Daniel, but he does get to the end and had to do quite a few moves there. So shall we talk to our BMW man next then? Thank you very much, Saunders, by the way, Moritz.
No worries.
We're now joined by Daniel Marzen from Merc Sim Racing, having finished in 10th, taking his first point in his contender split career. Well done, Daniel. That was a bit of a tough race. Something a bit further down, mired in the pack. Chaotic first lap, but obviously you had a little bit of bad luck fairly early in the race that you had to fight back from, didn't you? So well done on getting that final point.
Yeah, I'll take anything in the contender split. I'll take as a reserve driver for sure. It was a good time. Yeah, that mid pack fight was just waiting for things to go wrong. So I was trying to be patient and just let everything happen, and then just overcooked it. And that turn, the setup is just a little struggles there a little bit, and just got a little bit too much speed, too much steering angle, and around she went. So I think the tires never really recovered from that, unfortunately.
Yeah, but certainly with all the chaos going on, you were able to get ahead of Michele D'Arezzo in the end to take that final points position. We did see you and him battling a little bit, but I guess you say as a reserve to get a point is great, especially as in Tier 1, you came 6th in the last race, didn't you? The which was also an endurance, or was that also at Barcelona, if I'm not mistaken?
Yes, that was another one where I started 6th and finished 6th. That happened the same today. Start 10th, made up positions, made a mistake, finished the same. But I think it's okay. I think I just always want to show up and be clean, and show good racecraft, and just keep building. We're trying to build something over here and just have a good time while we do it. So if any day I get to come out and have a good time and, you know, be in the middle of competition, whether I'm not going to always be the lead pack, that's okay. I'm just trying to put us out there and show our drivers that, you know, you don't always have to be the best to kind of compete. You can be consistent and have good racecraft and still compete. You don't always have to be the best on raw pace necessarily.
Indeed.
It helps though. It does help though. It does help. These guys are very fast. These guys are very fast.
Well, you'll get there eventually. Don't worry, Daniel. Niclas, any questions for our 10th place man?
Well, surprisingly, from my side again, no real questions, just congratulations to the end of the result of your race. A P10 in this split is a very respectable performance, so we do hope to see you more often in the point positions.
Oh, thank you very much. Yep, just always looking to compete, have a good time. Thanks again for commentating. I haven't watched it back yet, but I'm sure you guys did amazing, and I'm sure it's a good fun watch. So
the chat did not seem to think so. Well, apparently we were too quiet at the start, but anyway, I decided to shout through the whole thing, and that seemed to sort the problem out.
Chats be chat. Yeah,
that's
they
true.
do that.
It was probably just Mary Colombo. Anyway,
yeah.
But anyway, best of luck. We're now going on a break in the season, at least in contender split. So if you get the call up on the reserves list again, we'll see you at Fuji on the 23rd. But also, Daniel, best of luck for your Tier 1 campaign. Their next race, if I'm not mistaken, is Sebring 28th of August, a few days later as well. So yes, Fuji will not help you whatsoever for that. but
no.
But Fuji, a good track for the BMW, I'm told. So we'll
it is. It's also not too bad for the BMW at Sebring as well. Calvin Berry in Tier 2 for Merc Sim Racing had a good race there. It can go. The BMW wears its tires and it has a little nuance to it, but it has good overall pace. So if again, I think it's one of those things. If I just put myself in a decent spot for qualifying and avoid mistakes, I think we can look at gaining some points in both those races potentially. We'll see.
I'm sure Falcon Sim Racing will be knocking at your door for next season before we know.
Nah, that's okay. That's okay.
Well, anyway, I'll try and put in a good word for you if I can. But anyway.
Oh, okay, thanks. Hey, I
Anyway.
think we're having a good time over here. We're doing something. We're building something that I'm really proud of.
Okay,
Merckson.
seriously,
Yeah, we're really proud of it, and we have some good guys, and feel blessed to be a part of an awesome team. So we're gonna keep building. We'll see. We'll keep building.
Well, Merck Sim Racing Gold has gone gold with its first of many points. Well, we hope to see you again soon, Daniel. Thank you very much for talking to us, and have a great evening.
All right, you guys too. Thanks so much. Bye.
Probably a lot later where you are than it is.
Actually, a lot earlier. Actually,
Oh,
I'm
no,
in the
right.
U.S.
Well, have a good
yeah.
afternoon then.
Yes. Thanks. You guys have a good evening.
Yes. All right. Sadly, no word as of yet from our GD3s. I hope Michael Thomas might want to talk to us because I'm not sure if any of the other front runners in GD3 have particularly great English. So that might be a small roadblock to them talking to us, or at least us able to being talk to them in English. You know a bit of German, don't you, Niclas?
Yeah, I do a lot of German. I do know.
Okay. Do any of them speak German? I don't think so. Killian Adolphs, maybe.
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think we have any Germans on this.
I think
GT3
Corbinian
field.
Windele on the reserves list is German.
Yeah, but
Oh
he's
no,
unfortunately-
Sidoruk. Mark Sidoruk is not here today. Is also German.
Yeah, unfortunately.
There we go. I missed seeing the Aston Martin advantage as well. We had to make do with Gaberpor's Valkyrie, which was a more than capable hypercar equivalent replacement. Yeah, there we go. So with no honest interview, Niclas. Final thoughts then. Of course, Ulrich and Price quite close together, but a superb third place fight between Viola, Cantor, and George pretty much the whole race long. And then Manisha doing that early pit stop to get ahead in GD3 with Lay in second, and the fight was really for fourth place there between Thomas Elaine and Aheno.
Yeah, I mean, this race just had everything. It had such a strategic
Even had a
chaos.
bit
It
of
was-
rain at the end.
Yeah, it was super fun to watch because there was so much drama for everyone. At one point, it looked like Benjamin George was about to get into the podium. Then we had Nicolas Orich and Gabapor closing in on them all of a sudden. And basically, the whole race, P3 was up for grabs for everyone. But yeah, it was a very, very dominant performance from Moritz Orich. I would say that was the only predictable thing throughout the whole race.
I mean, even he was letting Price get quite. He said it was all traffic, but Price might have something to say. I think the second half of this season, Johannes Price could be a big threat for race wins. He's been threatening to do it for quite a while now, so we'll have to see. But anyway, that brings us to the end of our third contender split round of the season. As I say, summer break coming up now between rounds 3 and 4, so it will be a number of weeks before we come back at the end of August in about a month's time, or just under a month's time, of course. But yeah, of course, our next pro round will be Paul Ricard on the 30th of August. Contender split, as you can see on screen, it is Fuji 23rd of August, the week before, and as tier 1, as I said, is Sebring 28th of August, the day before. We've also got tier 2, Portimao 21st of August. That'll be the first one back, I believe, from the break. And yeah, then we'll also there's action for tier 3, 4, 5, 6, and the LMP2 Endurance Series. Well, they don't get going again until Spa in the Pro Series on the 13th of September. So if you're a fan of LMP2, then you're out of luck at the moment, but your patience will be rewarded in the second half of the campaign. So all remains to be said is my thanks to you, Niklas Riedel, for filling in at short notice. It's been a pleasure as always. Really enjoyed working alongside you.
I was really blessed to be here. I always love commentating these races with you guys, and also obviously thanks to the other Niklas Domino for broadcasting.
That's what I
Amazing
was
job
about
as
to say.
always.
And finally, as well, as well as thanking all the competitors and everybody behind the scenes at VMS that keep the show on the road, we should also give a shout out to Chris Buxton as well, who was originally commented today, couldn't be here. Sadly, Chris, of course, day before, literally yesterday, learned the very, very sad and sudden passing, the news of his father passing away. So all the best to the Buxton family at this very difficult time. A very sad and untimely death, and yeah, certainly we hope Chris gets all the time he needs. We'll be ready, waiting for him when he wants to come back, which hopefully will be at the end of the summer break. So I guess it's sort of fortuitously timed in that sense. But yes, big commiserations and respects to Chris and the Buxton family. But anyway, that is the end of Contender Split. Congratulations to Moritz Ulrich and Artyom Manisha and Visceral Esports that get another pair of wins to recover from Silverstone. Long way to go in this championship, but Ulrich and Manisha very much on top. Thank you very much for watching. I've been Edward Hunter. Good night.